All right. Greetings, family, and welcome back to another edition of the Ethereal Journey podcast. All right. With that being said, this is our 50th episode, family, and so with that, we got a little twist, a few twists and turns for this episode for today. All right, so this is our Golden Jubilee episode, and so we appreciate everybody that's going to be able to tap in and tune in. And on this ethereal journey, just appreciate everyone's continual support and showing the love. Definitely appreciate it. With that being said, I am one of your co-hosts for this evening, Captain Uncaged, and I also have with me currently Brother L Pollinator.
Shalom, shalom, ethereal journey.
All right. How you be? How you been? You checking in? What's going on with you, L?
Oh man, everything's everything. Like Sister Lauren Hill had once sang, you know what I mean? And
Indeed.
we just gonna deal with everything as it comes because we are well equipped. We are fully loaded, locked, and ready to doggone do what we gotta do to take care of what we gotta take care of. So everything is everything on my end. And I just want to welcome everybody to the 50th episode of the Ethereal Journey podcast. We started last June, June 17th to be exact. So we're coming up on, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're coming up on that actual anniversary date as well. So we just want people to tune in because we got some fun things. We got some great things. We got some thought-provoking things. And we got everything that we're going to bring to the table. Like I said earlier, everything is everything. And we just want you all to continue to, be blessed, be highly favored, and make your mark on yourself more than your mark on anything else, by elevating, ascending, and getting your ethereal information so that you can continue to move on up like George and Wheezy. We want to see you in the penthouse one day. So that's how we go on with tonight, 50th anniversary, 50th episode. And I just want to say upward, forward, and onward, and let's get this show on the motion. Let's blast off on the Ethereum. One.
Absolutely. All right. So with that being said, hopefully we'll have other co-hosts joining us this evening. But let's jump right into it, family. Let's get started on a high note, as they say. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen and get ready for our first feature for this evening. Okay, that should be coming up on the screen currently. Okay, here we go. All right, let's rock and roll, family.
Salute to comrade sister Asada. The name Asada Shakur has been, for years, already become a legendary name. It represents resistance, black freedom struggle, and indeed revolutionary solidarity, especially with the brave and principled government and people of Cuba. I say legendary because at least dozens of rappers have named her, and we shouldn't forget her best-selling book, Asada, a brilliant autobiography. The book tells of her youth in the South and coming to the North and learning about the Black radical revolutionary movements. As she writes, this book is about a Black woman's awakening, and therefore her story awakens others, especially young people. She joined the Black Panther Party and later the Black Liberation Army and the Black freedom struggle generally. Indeed, her life became a symbol of these struggles. In May 1973, she and two comrades, Zaid Malik Shakur and Sundiata Kohli, were stopped in a car on I-95 in New Jersey, and a shootout ensued. Two men, Zaid Malik Shakur and a New Jersey state trooper, were killed. Guess who got charged with both their murders? Assata was. Her attorney, who was incidentally her aunt, Evelyn Williams, won at least 5 acquittals at trial. When she was finally convicted, it took an all-white jury in Middlesex County, New Jersey, which resulted in a sentence of life plus 65 years, despite her innocence. In November 1979, the BLA and other comrades entered the prison where Assata was being held and carried her to freedom. She spent her lifetime in Cuba, which granted her refuge and a home of political asylum. Living in freedom in Cuba for over half a century meant a life of teaching English and supporting the society that boldly supported her. But it also meant exile, living apart from her beloved daughter, Kikuya, who was literally a child of the BLA. Her book, Assata, has traveled to many lands and has been translated to many languages. But her message, made possible by the Cuban state, was of the value of revolutionary solidarity and also the value of resistance to the U.S. empire. Her lasting message: to love each other, to support each other, and to struggle until freedom comes. Assata Shakur, member of the Black Panther Party, soldier of the Black Liberation Army, mother, grandmother, and comrade sister, returned to the loving embrace of the ancestors on September 25th, 2025. With love, not fear. This is Mumia Abu Jamal.
What's the call? What's the call? What's the call? Free 'em all, fam. It is my great pleasure, honor. I ain't gonna fangirl, but I'm a fangirl. We're gonna bring out a child of the revolution, a sound healer, Maimuna Youssef, Mumu Fresh. Give it up for y'all for Mumu Fresh. Yahweh, 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 Pray for me. Pray for me. Oh, My mother prayed for me when you bow the altar. Please don't forget to pray for me. Ooh, soon I will be done with the troubles of this world. Troubles of this world. Troubles of this world. Soon I will be done with the trouble of this world. I'm going home to live with God. Peace will come, don't despair. Cling to truth, be aware. Peace will come, don't despair. Cling to truth. Peace will come. In the spirit of our honorable ancestors. Peace will come, don't despair. Cling to truth, be aware. Peace will come, don't despair. Cling to truth, be aware. Peace will come, don't despair. Cling to truth, be aware. Peace will come, don't despair. Cling to truth, be aware. Peace will come. To truth, be aware. Peace will come. Peace will come. Don't despair. Let there be peace on earth and let
it began with me. The spirit of Asada.
All right, family. Let me stop my screen share there. All right, so that was an excerpt from the going home ceremony from our dear sister, ancestor, Saint Asada Shakur. So I just wanted to get the vibes right and get the energies right, tap in with the ancestors, and give thanks for the stage that we're at currently as we push forward for continued freedom, justice, and liberation. All right, so shout out to our sister Mumu Fresh for that compelling performance. All right, and we got Sister Empress in the building, beamed on board to the EtheReal. All right, give thanks. Checking in, just want to tap in. How you be? How you been? How's everything, Sister Empress?
Oh, everything is good, Brother Moon, but I can never get enough of hearing Sister Moon Fresh. I mean, just beautiful, beautiful. This is Black History Month, so like we just learned a little while ago that People Bryson is now an ancestor. He made transition a little while ago.
Okay, okay. All right, excellent, excellent. All right. And I thank you for joining us once again. And let's keep it moving. Anything to add on that, Brother Pollinator? And let me just get some quick updates for y'all from y'all as well. If there's any updates, anything that's happening presently or in the near future, I just want to check in for any updates before we continue.
Man, I think beautiful opening with the honorable celebration to our honorable ancestor, Sister Asada Shakur. I think the music was heavenly. It was angelic. It was, it was just a beautiful scene. And I just, want to give thanks and praise to the Most High for the life of, our fallen soldier, our fallen warrioress, our fallen queen, our fallen goddess. To be honest with you, because she stood up at a time in which a lot of people were afraid to stand up, like like no other time. But now, in this time, that's the same story being told. A lot of people are scared to stand up and do what she did, but she did what she did, and she has made a mark in her story, number one, and in his story, number two. So I just want to, give her all the praises, honor, and the glory that she deserves, because she is, on the other side, and she's a righteous ancestor that's here again. And we don't know, she might have taken on over another person's avatar, another, meat suit or earth suit, as we say. She might be back here and living it out in another lifetime, because she wants to be here for the final battle, for the final war against all wickedness and evil that we currently see being played out right now, live and real time, right here in this Mother Earth, our Mother Earth. So I just want to, thank her as a righteous ancestor as well. And that's pretty much about it. I just, thank you for bringing that clip, because it was a great clip, as well as our brother, our imprisoned political prisoner, the Honorable Mumia Abu-Jamal as well, you know, coming in and saying what he had to say earlier on in that video. So I just appreciate the information. And welcome to the 50th. You know what I mean? This is our 50th episode, good peoples that's listening in. And we're just trying to continue on with the legacy of raising our consciousness, you know, ethereally within ourselves, first and foremost, and then collectively within our own people, second and foremost. But first of all, you got to work on yourselves. We're hoping that people that listen into this broadcast, as this 50th golden anniversary has came upon us, of our episodes, and we just hope that you gained some things over the last 50 episodes. So with that being said, I yield.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And just checking in, just any updates that you might have, your sister Empress, before we jump back into the program. Anything upcoming, any updates, anything of that nature.
Who you asking, me or Sister Chia, both of us?
Yeah, I'm asking both, but you can start us off, good brother.
Well, you know, I'm still doing what I do with the public service announcements, as well as the syphilis tsunami uh, public health campaign. I'm running some coming soons right now because I got a big project we're getting ready to release probably pretty soon, but we're gonna do it the right way. I want it to be something that people are going to be able to utilize and be able to know that we're still in the war when it comes to protecting our family members and communities from these terrible and horrible diseases that continue to plague our communities. So I'm still running promos right now for the coming soon of Bad Blood. And I'm going to keep that as a question mark right now because you know how I do. I don't give out any information until it's ready to go, but I'm going to get you prepared and ready. So when we do release it and unleash it on the population, it's going to be like unleashing the Kraken on the population, but it's going to be a good Kraken. It ain't going to be a bad one. So with that being said, that's the only update I have right now. Continue to tune in to El Pollinator on all social media sites, TikTok, X, Facebook, Threads, as well as IG, Instagram. So that's my only update for tonight. Thank you, Captain Arcade.
All right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. All right. Thank you for that addition, brother Pollinate. I'm not sure if Sister Empress has any updates for us before we continue on. Thank you for that update once again.
Actually, I do. Just a little while ago, we were in a very interesting discussion. And so, unfortunately, I have to report that Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. Has been taken into custody
Whoa.
today. Yeah.
Whoa, no.
Yep. Today was the day that, he was to go to trial. And it never even got to that point from what I just got this report a little while ago. It didn't even get to the point of the trial actually starting. There was some kind of warrant or something like that was already out. And so they acted on that. So I'm waiting now as we speak for the next update. But presently he is incarcerated.
Wow.
And by the way, and we'll go more into this at another time, but this goes back to the sabotage, the upgrading of COINTELPRO, and the various people that are in our circle. See, it used to be, you know, for the most part, how people were operating until it was manifesting that manner. But nowadays, they do it right in your faces. So from what I was told, this particular female that has charged him with stalking, literally at the courtroom today or at the court facility today, tried to, get into some stuff with some of Fred Hampton Jr.'s supporters. Some things got verbal from what I was told. And it seems to be this particular person's kind of character. She likes to stir things up from the reports that I'm getting. So it's not just, one incident. It's several. It accumulates and then it gets into what it's now into. And remember, this all came about from, and this goes also back to politricksters, because the former congressperson for that area, Chicago, who was also a former Black Panther Party member. That's why I tell people, be real clear nowadays. Just because someone was doing something 50 years ago or 40 years ago, that doesn't mean that's who they are now. So we can't keep equating what people did before and think that's what's going on now. But anyway, that particular person was involved in attempting to sabotage Chairman Fred Hampton and his mother's annual observance of his father.
Wow, wow, wow. So yeah, definitely want to continue to get updates and information on that as that story continues to unfold, and just get more information on how we can continue to support our dear brother, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. All right, so looking forward to getting updated information so we can continue in that supportive mechanism. Thank you for that update, Sister Empress. Wow. Okay, family. So, just have to be prepared as possible, continue to be aware and understanding some of this divide and conquer type of strategy that is being utilized, that has been utilized and continues to be utilized. And so making sure that we're astute and aware, educated and informed so we do not continue to allow these types of insurrections, sabotaging, and acts of treason, to keep it stated plainly, to continue to happen within our communities, within our organizations, and within our new budding nation. All right, family. So again, we'll keep you abreast as things continue to develop in those regards.
Real quick, Captain on Cage, I wanted to ask Sister Empress Chi. You saying that he was booked on charges that he was booked on charges that were pending, or something that he did not show up for court? What was the exact I guess surroundings of that? Again, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm really not sure, El. I mean, this is just coming in within the past hour.
Right.
So, I don't have all the details yet. It just happened a little while ago. Because remember, we're
Right.
an hour different. We're, different in time. So what I do know is that whatever the proceedings was, that did not happen. And that proceedings was in regards to a female saying that he was stalking her. And this had to do with the fact that there was an event held in Chicago in honoring his father. And he was not invited, he or his mother. And of course, when he heard about it, he went there. So,
Mhm.
so she then filed charges and said that he was stalking her.
Mm.
All right, because he went to see what was going on with people using his father's name for fundraising and all this other kind of stuff. Right?
Didn't we have footage of
So
that
I'm
that
so
whole
these.
event at one time?
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely. We saw it.
I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
watching
we
some
did.
footage of
Yeah.
him doing some of those things like
Right.
that. Yeah. Okay.
That's
Okay.
right. And she filed charges on that.
Whoa.
Yeah. So again, I'm not sure if there was a pending warrant or what, but I'll know very shortly.
Oh yeah, stay in tune to that, boy. Stay up, keep us updated on that, because that we just talking about brother Mumia Abu Jamal opening up for Sister Asada Shakur's memorial service, and now we got another person that potentially might be into a political prisoner situation. So, anyways, yeah, whew, it's heavy. That's heavy.
Indeed, indeed. So yeah, definitely gonna, again, family, keep y'all abreast and aware as things continue to open up on this story and how we can continue to support our brother, the revolutionary general, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr.
Mm.
So we
One other
definitely
thing
want
I
to
forgot to mention
continue to
to
show him
everyone, if
love
you
and
get the
support.
opportunity, if you get the opportunity, go check the replay for. I was on Brother Carl Nelson's program this morning, and it really got good. I mean, we went into an area that we hadn't anticipated, or that we had not planned. But check it out. It was really good today. So you can just go to the Carl Nelson show, and all of his stuff is archived. And you just go to today's program, and you will hear the interview. I'm the first one on.
All right, excellent. And see if we can work on getting the link for that shortly, and being able to share that within the comments and so forth on our live stream platforms as well. Okay, with that being said, let me get ready to take care of a little bit of cleaning, housekeeping, and knock this out really quickly, just to make sure we are covered. It's a fair use notice, okay, in accordance with 17 USC section 107. All right, and this is for educational and informational purposes solely. All right, so fair use notification. Okay. Also, content disclaimer. All right. The views and opinions expressed in the media or comments on this channel are those of the speakers or authors, and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by this channel's broadcaster. Due to the social nature of this broadcasting channel, videos may contain content copyrighted by another entity or person. This channel owner claims no copyright to said content. The broadcaster of this channel cannot be held accountable for the copyrighted content. The broadcaster of this channel is a messenger and share of information and strives to verify, but cannot warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information on this channel. If you have a complaint about something or find your content is being used incorrectly, please contact the broadcaster prior to making a copyright claim. Any infringement was not done on purpose and will be rectified to all parties' satisfaction. Let me stop my screen share there. Okay. All right. Fans said, we're going to move forward to our next piece. And let's take a look at, and shout out to our brother comedian Godfrey, along with the good folks over at EYL, all right, Earn Your Leisure podcast. Okay, let me go ahead and share the screen real quick, and let's jump into it. All right, this should be good. Oh, hold on, let me bring it back. Hold on, let me try that again. Let's get the volume right, family. Okay.
The ADT that we have now, the security system, a black woman, the sanitary napkin, Mary Kay.
Okay, let me refresh it.
Of Black Americans, our security system.
Yep.
Marie Van Bright in 1966, she was a nurse in Queens, New York, made the ADT that we have now, the security system, a black woman, the sanitary napkin, Mary Kenner. You're talking about Otis Boykin, the pacemaker. You're talking about first open heart surgery, Daniel Hale. You're talking about plasma and blood transfusion. Charles Drew of Omega Psi Phi, who was not even in, who was in a car accident and couldn't be admitted to a hospital and he had just discovered plasma and blood transfusion, and they didn't let him to a hospital because he was black after discovering it. Okay, we got the elevator, we got the escalator, we got Gladys West, who just passed away, who was an innovator of the GPS that we have in our car system. We have the caller ID. We have Shirley Jackson. We have 3D imaging. We have laser eye surgery. We have the brother who's still alive, James West, who did all the microphones we speak on is because of him, the acoustician. You know what I'm saying? So we got the remote control. Mr. Jackson with the remote control. We have Henry Sampson with the cell phone. We got Lonnie Johnson with the Super Soaker, who just got his money, the NASA toy maker, who got his money. We can keep going.
Traffic signal.
The traffic light.
The tracking signal.
And you know, we found out on our show, you know, one of the forefathers of artificial intelligence.
It's Blackwell.
Yep. Blackwell.
Yeah, we just Blackwell. I just saw. I was like, it's like what they hide this shit constantly.
Purposely.
You got camera inventions, you got car inventions, there's people maybe didn't discover right away certain things, but helped enhance it. You have Percy L. Julian did a lot of things for birth control. And imagine all these inventions were done when Black folks didn't have a chance in hell. I'm just going to name some inventions of Black Americans. Our security system.
Yep.
Marie Van Brighton.
Let me stop it right there. Okay. And under the captions, it says Black American inventors have fundamentally shaped America by transforming their daily life, industry, and technology. All right, family, let me stop my screen share there. And that is just to name a few inventions, and the list actually goes on and on. The ironing board, okay, the refrigerator, the bicycle, the folding chair. All right, family. So again, why it's so very important, and why we felt as though it was important part of our responsibility dealing within media to make sure we have a strong representation of independent Black media, so we can take control and maintain control over our own image and narrative. All right. With that being said, let me come to the EtheReal journalist. What say you on this information that we just shared?
I'll let the queen go first.
All right. I'm gonna come to you, Sister Empress, and then I'm gonna come to.
What can I say? We know we have known these things, meaning they have either kept information away from us and or stolen, some of the ideas, inventions, and so forth. I mean, this has been going on for centuries. So, it's just wonderful that we're here today to be able to hear and learn and advance what some of our people already have shown us.
Indeed, absolutely. Brother Pollinator, you got any addition?
I mean, the list goes on and on. We did a list last week. I think we had about 8 brothers and sister inventors that actually brought and gave us a lot of modern technologies that we're currently using today. So today's information from Brother Godfrey was a follow-up to what we've already started in trying to expose, and not even expose, just give out information that a lot of people are not familiar with, as well as they haven't done their own research to realize that everything you probably using in your home, in your job, and other places was invented by someone who was carbonated and melanated like you and me, because we are the original inventors. We are the original pioneers. We are the original civil keepers and holders and creators of civilizations. And this current civilization, I've said this before, is very primitive compared to the civilizations that existed before these so-called modern technologies that they have. Man, we was on some George Jetson / Wakanda / Lemuria / Atlanta, the ancient city of Atlanta stuff, way before this little technology they got now, where they got wires sticking up out of the ground connecting us to our electricity and power sources. We had more higher technologies than what we're currently seeing today, believe it or not. I yield.
Indeed. And I thank you for that addition, Brother Pollinator. And we're actually going to tap into that that subject matter a little bit later on in the programming. And we're just going to continue to bring the facts, bring the receipts, and continue to set the record straight. All right, because we again, it's part and parcel of our responsibility to make sure that this information is circulated, and it's kept, it is curated for us and by us. Okay, so we definitely should be learning lessons from the past and making sure we don't continue to repeat them. And one of those is making sure that we have control. over information, right, and its dissemination. All right. So again, part and parcel with the Ethereal Journey podcast is all about. All right. With that being said, let me come to the next clip, and let me go ahead and share my screen one more again. All right. Let me share my screen here. And just more proof positive of some of what was shared by the ethereal journalist family. So let me go ahead and let's get it rocking.
Was black. The world tried to silence him. He proved ancient Egypt was black. The world tried to silence him. One African scientist took on the entire Western academic world with nothing but facts, evidence, and an unshakable mind. They rejected his PhD twice, banned his research, tried to erase him. He was right about everything. Cheikh Anta Diop was born in Senegal in 1923. From a young age, he asked a question that made the entire Western world deeply uncomfortable. What if everything they taught about ancient Egypt was wrong? He didn't just theorize. He went to work. Using linguistics, anthropology, genetics, and archaeology, he built a case so airtight, so devastatingly thorough that it couldn't be ignored. His conclusion? Ancient Egypt wasn't a Middle Eastern or Mediterranean civilization. It was a Black African civilization, built by Black African people. The academic establishment came at him hard. His doctoral thesis was rejected not once, but twice by the University of Paris. Not because his research was flawed, but because the implications were too uncomfortable to accept. Accepting Diop's findings meant rewriting everything. Every textbook, every museum exhibit, every assumption Western civilization had built about the origins of human achievement. So they tried to shut him down, discredit him, bury him. It didn't work. In 1974, UNESCO convened a symposium of the world's leading Egyptologists in Cairo specifically to debate Diop's findings. Scientist after scientist, evidence after evidence. By the end of that symposium, the academic world was forced to concede Diop was right. The ancient Egyptians were African. The cradle of human civilization was African. Everything they spent centuries trying to separate from Africa was African. He didn't just win the argument. He rewrote history. They rejected his PhD twice, banned his work, built entire institutions around proving him wrong. And in the end, the world's leading scientists sat in Cairo and admitted he was right all along. Some legacies aren't built in classrooms. They're built in truth. Follow, because the truth about Africa is bigger than they ever wanted you to know. He proved.
All right, let me stop my screen share there. Okay. So, family, we did talk about on the previous podcast, we talked about some of the work, some of the research and so forth of ancestor Sheikh Ate Diop. And so this was just some more supporting evidence and a nice video clip around and surrounding that research and scholarship. All right, family. So again, uh, don't let anybody tell you anything otherwise. All right, this is proven with irrefutable facts. Okay, and still to this day, you have Egyptologists, so on and so forth, the Arabs, and so on and so forth, trying to claim, that space, trying to claim that era in history. Okay, when it's already been proven that this was African descended people from our scholars, from our ancestors, from our elders. All right, so um, again, why it's so important that we maintain control of our own image, narrative, history, culture, and legacy. All right. With that being said, let me come to your theory of journalists for some additions on that.
Yeah, also to kind of add to that clip, Brother Lumumba, and I'm hoping that people will take the time to do a little more study, a little more research. And again, this for me is kind of the difference between folk that were really serious about being a change maker and things of that nature. You know, we studied, we really did. It was not only a requirement, it was a responsibility. So going back to check out the Diop, or as some pronounce it, check out the joke. Um, the thing that this particular clip didn't mention, and I think folks need to know, is that he actually got access to what was known as a mummy. Meaning a body that was very, very old. All right, he was able to get access to that, and in doing so, was able to extract from that body some of the dried. I think it was blood. I'm not sure which material it was, but it was something that was extracted from that particular mummy. Now remember, he was also a physicist, so he knew how to do certain experiments. So the point being, he extracted whatever material it was from the so-called mummy and proved, based on scientific research, based on the melanin content, that this was in fact someone of very, very dark complexion, for lack of better terminology, aka black. So this is why when people talk about where things originated at and all of that, I say, well, bring the proof. Because, we got something to work with on this. The other thing, too, that we want to mention, I believe that one of the universities now in Senegal has been named for or after Shanghai State. And lastly, I had the opportunity to really get to know his grandson, Njaga Joe, who is a well-known, actually, musician. I mean, he's a banker by profession, but he kind of gave some of that up to want to be an artist. So he's a well-known artist, reggae artist in Europe, actually. But again, it is so important that we do the work that is necessary. And lastly, for those who tend to want to poo-poo the United Nations, UNESCO is a part of the United Nations. So the fact of the matter is, if UNESCO had not created some kind of initiative whereby Shanghai Joe could submit it, get support for it, and so forth, we wouldn't have that information. So we say again, utilize tools and other kinds of things when we can. We can take from some of the things that we might not want to deal with, or we might have some adversity with, but there's sometimes something in there that can be utilized and applied positively.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Any additions to that, Brother L, before we move forward?
I mean, this is the year of revelation, the year that truth will be revealed and unveiled, as they say, and that we as people, first of all, need to start connecting the dots that ancestor Diop was trying to show us, that we are the originators of some civilizations. We are the founders of all technologies, because in order to get that frequency, you have to have something not within just your mind, but within your DNA, your codes, your scripts that was written within your blood, within your lines of deoxyetheric acid that comes directly from the great creator of the universe. See, that's why they were able to tap in and create these civilizations. It wasn't because all of a sudden they just came up in their mind. They had it written within their bodies, within their frequency, within their vibration of who they were. And before they even came in and started taking on the form of an avatar, it was written inside them. That's why it says the kingdom is within us. That's how we're able to create, because we tapping from that well. We're not tapping from the well of knowledge going to a university or a college, because university, what's the main word in university? Universe. See, they took information from that they got from us and created colleges and universities and want us to go and learn or relearn something that we already had that was written within us. Why don't we have more Black universities that are actually derived and connected to our people than they do? It's because they took our universal knowledge and information and they turned it in and claimed that it was theirs and started giving out degrees based on what they want to teach you, based on how they rewrote that they're the ones that created and made the technologies and things like that in their universities. And now we got to go to them to get our information, or even just to get accreditation to have a damn degree. Whether it's a master's, a doctorate, we got to go through them. But wait a minute, where did y'all get that information from? See, so it's all, to me, it's all cap, and the truth is coming out. And whatever's going to happen now down the road, let the universe's chips fall where they may, because the story was written already. As much as they tried to rewrite the script, they can't change the truth that's getting ready to be coming out more and more, because truth is pressing into the earth right now. People ain't going for the okie doke no more.
And you know, Al, if I may add something that kind of goes with what you just said, but I have to also provide another area of this, and it is, we know what I call the unnatural enemy has done, is doing, will do. The fact of the matter is, we have known for close to 100 years that this is what they do. So at some point, we have to really also analyze, or at least bring to the forefront, how it was still allowed for this kind of deception and misinformation to remain to the degree that it has. Mm-hmm. Now, going back to Dr. Carter G. Woodson, he wrote The Miseducation of the Negro. Mm-hmm. Prior to him, you had people like George G.M. James, Stolen Legacy. You also had J.A. Rogers. I mean, volumes of information that said very clearly that, you know, this is this is that, and so forth and so on. So my point is, we have had certain kinds of things, not to the degree that we have now, obviously, but we knew that these people were ripping us off, that they were, you know, plagiarizing, all kinds of things. Somehow, the folks that knew this stuff continued to cover it up. And I'm talking about our own people. So at some point, we're going to have to look at that very closely too.
Indeed. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's the big connecting the dot that we have failed to miss, because we trust in those people who become the gatekeepers, become the sellouts, become the flying monkeys, the ones that have been in the way of us learning who we are and where we came from as a true people, instead of, we just came in over ships over here from the transatlantic slave trade and we just landed on Plymouth Rock. Come on, man. You know, somebody must have took one when we landed there and said, let's start rearranging history, because we got to create this whole facade, this whole matrix here, or this evil matrix that we call America, KKK, and then make these people think that they don't have no roots. They don't come from nowhere but from a boat that landed on Plymouth Rock, you know. And it's wicked to me, and it's evil. And for those who have sanctioned this nonsense, and even some of these so-called black bourgeoisie, or whatever you want to call them, bougie, who've kept these things in place, they are going to be dealt with. Because we have came to a point now where the truth has got to be exposed. And I'm not always looking at the race of people that are claiming to be supremacists over us, or any other race of people or nation of people. I'm looking at who were the ones that sold us out to the point where we're this ignorant right now in the year 2026. We're this friggin' ignorant. That wasn't just because of white supremacy or any other nation's supremacy over us. That was because there was some collaboration. There was some conspiracy going on with the people that are of our own nations, our own black nations. So I'm just going to yield on that one.
So here's the thing, and we're having this conversation, but I can tell you that other conversations are also now being had, because here's the reality. Right to here today, right? We have people right in our faces that are, if not committing treason, they are at least acting as if they represent our best interests when we know that they don't. And I'm saying right here as we speak, we'll talk about it, but there's no plans of action for real to do anything about it. And I always go back to, when I think about it, it's funny. I mean, not, well, in one way it is funny. And we talked about it the other night. This was during the 60s, I believe. And again, a brother by the name of Max Stanford was the head of something called RAM. Revolutionary Action Movement. And when he was arrested, or one of the things he was arrested for was allegedly some form of conspiracy to get rid of a couple of people in our community who was, shall we say, as the term go, Uncle Tom's, even though, that's a different word. But the point is, so what I'm saying is we have ambulance chasers now. We've got civil rights work people who be talking a lot of stuff, and no one that I know of sets up anything realistically that addresses that. You see, so we got to look at this thing right now, right here in our own reality, that literally we have these conversations about various people. Now, we did a presentation, I believe, here on EtheReal that talked about Jesse Jackson. So we get this information, but at the same time, this stuff keeps happening over and over and over. And we've got to ask ourselves at some point, why? Lastly, I had a conversation with a sister today. And we were talking about, developing apparatuses so that we can run our own political candidates. And so, she was saying some of the same stuff that people have been saying for like 50 years. And I said, until people feel that there is going to be a consequence to their behavior, they're going to continue to do whatever they want to do. And so, again, that has to now be in the mix, that people are very clear that if you sell us out, the least we will do is make certain that in Black communities nationwide, your name is mud. That's the least.
That's dumb spelled backwards, by the way.
Right. So I'm saying, we will have minimal conversation, but no real campaigns, no real intentional, aggressive, whatever, to make sure that people that do things that we know and agree is against our best interests. And until we do that, minimally, until we put some posters up and say, this person right here, treason, right, in our community, because y'all know how the hood is. Mm-hmm. Once you do something, y'all see, I'm saying, there's a whole nother process that goes on when you put stuff in the hood in a certain kind of way. Mm-hmm. Get that conversation rolling amongst the masses. For real? Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. Y'all know. But see, again, we talk about these things, but we don't have people actually stepping up to do it.
Indeed. With that, I would say, thank God for the Theory Journey podcast, New Day Resurrection, and the other platforms, Do the Knowledge Radio, and other platforms that put this information out there, that provide critical analysis, and who develop different action plans and initiate and execute them. All right, so it's on us. We're working towards doing our part, but it definitely is going to take a collective consortive type of effort in order to make sure that there are certain levels of accountability that is happening within our communities, all right, within our organizations and so forth. And I think one of those, which you mentioned previously, Empress, is the Black Anti-Defamation League. Okay. And so that would not only be inclusive of, other races, ethnicities, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So folks within our own, quote unquote ranks.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is just one idea and concept, family, that we're working on to be able to have more of a, defensive mechanism in order to make sure that our names, our image, our narrative does not continue to get defamed, and information does not continue to permeate and perpetuate that is negative or detrimental to our people and to our story, history, and legacy.
Mhm.
All right, family. So I'll drop some information later on in the broadcast so you can follow up and tap in with myself, Brother Pollinator, as well as Sister Empress, and getting on board with some of these initiatives, programs, and so forth. All right. It's going to take a collective concerted effort, family. It's going to take all of us involved. All right. With that being said, let me go ahead and jump to our next clip.
Cultural. And while those descendants of Europeans throughout the world and those descendants of Africans throughout the world have adopted different hygienic practices, we have to ask ourselves, where does that come from? Do you guys know that in West Africa, they had developed modern plumbing, hot water facilities in home, public bathrooms for everyone, not just the rich, and sanitation, while at the same time, the royal family and the court were peeing on walls, pooping on walls in the Palace of Versailles, and people in London were throwing their sewage outside of their windows into the city, and it was called the Big Stink.
Sensational.
So when we ask ourselves how we got to a place where people commonly say that Africa was undeveloped and thanks to European colonization, they brought modernity like development and sewage, that is a lie. Europeans told the world because they wrote the world's history in order to absolve themselves from what they actually did on the continent. In 1817, a British explorer named Thomas Bowditch was sent to Kumasi, which was then the capital of the Ashanti Empire in present-day Ghana. He was there on a diplomatic mission. He was so shocked when he got there, he had to write it down because he knew no one back home would believe him. What he found was a city divided into 77 wards, 27 named streets, some of them 100 yards wide, 2-story buildings with indoor plumbing, toilets that were flush with boiling water on the second floor, meaning they had figured out water pressure, pipe systems, multi-level waste removal in 1817. That had probably been developed a century prior. And Bowditch notes that in Kumasi, also had public toilets on the outskirts of the city, meaning this just wasn't for wealthy people. These people were super cleanly and hygiene was important to them. He wrote that the streets never had sewage, never, unlike London. London was the capital of the empire that was about to colonize most of the world in the name of civilization. It used the Thames River as a toilet, human waste, animal waste, industrial runoff, all of it going into the same river that 8 private water companies are pulling drinking water from, effectively poisoning themselves and getting themselves sick. By 1857, 250 tons of raw sewage is entering the Thames every single day. And in the summer of 1858, a heat wave hit. The water level in the Thames dropped and centuries worth of waste starts baking in the sun. History calls this the Great Stink. Bowditch documented Ashanti plumbing in 1817. The Great Stink happened 41 years later. The British weren't more advanced, they were more aggressive. And that distinction matters because the entire justification for colonialism, the civilizing mission, the white man's burden of it all, rested on the idea that African people were primitive or savage, that they needed to be taught how to build, how to govern, how to live. But the Ashanti had named streets and indoor plumbing, while London was a public health catastrophe. The British were so averse to hygiene, they were throwing their own sewage into their drinking water supply. The savage Africans providing toilets for everyone, including the poor. When the British finally arrived, they burned Kumasi to the ground in 1874. They didn't destroy a primitive settlement. They destroyed a city that contradicted everything they claimed about Africa. They destroyed the evidence, but Bowditch wrote it down before they could burn it. They did the same thing with the Benin Wall, but the Benin Wall is one of the greatest wonders of human works to ever be built in the world, just second to the Great Wall of China. And the British couldn't get into the Benin Wall, so what did they do? They bombed it. I find it so disingenuous for people, especially those descendants of Europeans who always say that Africa was mud huts and no development, and that you guys would be in huts without us. You wouldn't have anything. When in fact, while the majority of Europe was in the Dark Ages, places like Timbuktu were thriving with universities and people trying to fly. And the African development was different, but it was developed in its own way. And Europeans only value Egypt. So they in their minds, the only developed place in Africa was Egypt and nowhere else. Meanwhile, the majority of the pyramids in the world are not even in Egypt. They're south of Egypt in Nubia. The playbook of colonialism is to rewrite history to make yourself the victor and absolve yourself from all of the pain you inflicted and the violence that you bestowed upon people. Coming into West Africa, burning the cities down, bombing the cities, destroying everything, flattening everything, and then documenting Africans of not having any development just so you can make a case for you going in and extracting resources from these people and human capital. Diabolical. But make sure you guys wash your legs today, wash your feet, wash your whole body from head to toe. Ciao, stay black. Hygiene is cultural. And while
All right, family, let me stop my screen share there. Okay. So, just continuing to paint that picture, family, and bringing truth to light. Okay. Now, this is what you were taught versus what the historical documented facts are. Okay. So, when we're talking about civilization, the development of civilization, we have to know and understand that we were the foremothers and fathers of it. Okay. And this is the documented evidence and proof. And so, again, as the brother was saying, history was rewritten in order to fit a certain narrative, in order to villainize a group of people to justify the cruel acts, okay, and aspects of colonialization and exploitation that went on and still goes on to this day. All right. So this is part of the tried and true playbook. Okay. And which is why it's important for those in power to be able to control curriculum, education, what history actually is, and why it's important for us to push back and do the same thing. And again, we on the same theme, we on the same track and train, continue to take control of our own image, narrative, history, and legacy. All right, let me open it up for the EtheReal journalists. Any additions on this, family? Okay,
Sister Chi?
Yeah, go ahead, Al.
No, I was gonna wait for you. I was gonna go ahead and let you go first. I know you probably had something that you'd like to say first. I'll try to use.
I mean, well, okay. So, yeah, we might not have known to the extent that of what was just shared, particularly in terms of the Ashanti people, but we've known for quite a while that London was a cesspool, more or less. We've known of Maatic, well, they call it the Black Plague, of course. Anything black, they're going to, make sure that that's put in a negative connotation. But I mean, we've known these things for quite a while. That Europe sent, different countries sent. And particularly England sent their people that were in prison here. So these things we have known for quite a while. Again, it's always good to hear things go more in depth in this day and age, that we can really see and learn more. And I will, speaking of more, we also have information, of course, of the various different groups that are known as Moors that also gave a lot to the enemy in helping them to grow and develop. So again, a lot of these things we have known for quite a while. And again, it's just good to be able to hear some of this in a more in-depth manner.
Indeed. Brother Pollinator, anything to add on this?
I mean, big truth and facts from Sister Chi, big truth and facts from the brother that broke those histories, and they're not ancient histories. You're talking about during the time we were enslaved in America. England was, like you said, Sister Chi, a damn cesspool. Bubonic plague, whatever, Black Death. I'm talking about all kinds of stuff, which comes from your close proximity with your daggone animals. Living in close proximity with Mother Nature, or with nature, but you allowing them to crap where you crap and eat where you eat. And a lot of that was going on during that time because they were still really kind of, not gonna say really kind of, they were uncivilized to an extent. If you call yourself a place in which you were willing to take slaves and bring them over here, but yet you still are acting very primitive, like a barbarian, a vandal, a Goth, or some other kind of heathen tribe. You think that you deserve any kind of accolade in history when just in less than 150 or less than 200 years you were living like that? F out of here with that.
And Al, keep in mind, family, that we're talking about in recent time, but we could trace this behavior and these kinds of habits and so forth back to Caligula. Y'all remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean, this stuff has a real history of just a certain type of filth and degradation and all kinds of stuff like that. And these were the hierarchy people. So you can imagine what was going on with the other folk.
Well, he loved him some Greco-Roman wrestling, you know what I mean? And
but he also, according to some of the documentation, he laid down with the horses. And I don't mean just to go to sleep.
No, they were into that. They were into all of that animal, whatever they want to call it, bestiality.
Yeah.
And the sad thing about it is the Roman Empire fell from them same Goths, them same barbarians, them same Vandals that they hired as mercenaries to fight off other kingdoms because none of their men wanted to fight because most of them were being like Caligula, wanting to look at Greco wrestling, Roman Greco wrestling all day long. Okay? Let's be real about it. Their whole society became sissified. Okay? What does it look like we going on in this world right now, at least in this country too? We becoming sissified. And then the warriors that fought they want to lay their arms down and become sissified like Caligula was. And then the Goths and the Romans, or the Goths and the Vandals and the barbarians that they used to hire as mercenaries said, you know what? Why are we working for these sissies? Why are we fighting for them? And that's when the whole Roman Empire fell. It fell because their men did not want to become warriors no more. They were willing to go out here and be participating in Greco-Roman wrestling all damn day long, eating grapes and being all in that, debaucherous behavior. Same story being told. We the second Roman Empire over here, by the way. I yield.
All right. Yes, indeed. All right, family. So again, just making sure that we are aware and astute of true history, world history. All right. And be able to bring these facts to the forefront, be able to continue to teach ourselves as well as teach one another. All right. So we don't continue to fall victims to false narratives. Okay. And so this is the type of tactics that is utilized to justify what has and is going on with the exploitation of melanated people across the globe. All right. So with that being said, let's jump into the next clip for this evening. All right, let me share my screen one more again. And this is Sister Ashley the Baroness. She always got something hot in the pot. Let's let her cook.
The story of the 1930s in America is that the country collapsed. Stock market crash, banks failing, bread lines, dust bowls, soup kitchens, Hoovervilles, everybody starving in black and white photographs. That version is the Great Depression that most people learned in school. But not everybody was depressed, because what you probably weren't taught is what Black America was doing during that same exact period. Because while the country was falling apart, Black America was in the middle of a renaissance. Honestly, two of them. People talk about the Harlem Renaissance like it was this cute little jazz moment, Jazz clubs, poetry readings, white people sneaking into Harlem and then leaving before midnight. But that framing misses what actually happened. The Harlem Renaissance didn't suddenly stop when the stock market crashed in 1929. White money disappeared, the patrons disappeared. Publishing houses pulled back. But Black artists kept creating anyway. They just stopped depending on white institutions to survive. In the 1930s, artist Charles Alston founded something called the 306 Workshop in Harlem. Inside that one building, you had Jacob Lawrence, Romare Bearden, Augusta Savage, Langston Hughes, and other Black artists working together and building. They were building community in the middle of the Great Depression. While the rest of the country was talking about collapse, Black artists were building infrastructure. Then Roosevelt's WPA funding started funding artists through the Federal Art Project. And Black artists used that funding to build the Harlem Community Arts Center in 1937. That center became a pipeline, a training ground of sorts. So, no, the Harlem Renaissance didn't die in 1929, it adapted, which honestly feels very Black American coded historically. Anyway, now here's the part almost nobody gets taught. And it's fun, so buckle in. While America was in an economic freefall, Mexico was in the middle of its own artistic explosion. Public murals, political art, national identity being rebuilt through culture. Diego Rivera, Frida Kahlo, David Alfaro Siqueiros. And Black Americans started going there repeatedly. Langston Hughes traveled to Mexico multiple times in the 1930s. Elizabeth Catlett moved there permanently in the 1940s, worked alongside Mexican artists, joined a political printmaking collective, and eventually became one of the most respected artists in Mexico. And honestly, this part says a lot. While American galleries were sidelining Black artists, right, Mexico was treating many of them like collaborators, like their work mattered, like they belonged in the conversation. And for a lot of Black American artists, that mattered deeply. Because imagine growing up in a country that constantly debated whether your humanity even counts, then walking into another country and being treated like an intellectual equal. That changes people. And meanwhile, back in the United States, Black America was still creating culture at an insane level. Sister Rosetta Tharpe was laying the groundwork for rock and roll with an electric guitar in church. Billie Holiday recorded Strange Fruit in 1939. Ella Fitzgerald won amateur night at the Apollo at just 17 years old. Duke Ellington was making some of the most important music of his career. Louis Armstrong was transforming jazz. Zora Neale Hurston published Their Eyes Were Watching God in 1937. The Negro Motorist Green Book launched in 1936 and started building survival infrastructure for Black travelers across America. A. Philip Randolph organized the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters into the first major successful Black labor union. Bessie Stringfield was riding a motorcycle across the country alone during Jim Crow. Like, do you understand how wild this period actually was? Black America was not sitting around waiting for the Depression to end. Black America was building the cultural foundation of modern America while the country was distracted. And honestly, I think this tells you something very important about history. When countries fall apart, the people hit the hardest are usually the people who had the most faith in the system working for them in the first place. Black Americans already knew the system could collapse. And for a lot of us, it already had. So while mainstream America was mourning the death of stability, Black America kept building, kept creating, kept imagining, kept making culture powerful enough to survive the collapse around it. And that's the part history struggles to tell honestly, because the official story about the 1930s is white American loss. But another story was happening at the exact same time. A story where Black artists, writers, musicians, labor organizers, and travelers were building entire cultural worlds during one of the hardest economic periods in American history. And once you realize that, the Great Depression stops looking like one universal American experience and starts looking like two completely different countries living through the same decade. The standard story of the 1930s in America is that the country collapsed.
All right. Let's stop this screen share there. Again, family, what we are doing is reframing the narrative of what the present paradigm of history is noted to be, and being able to compare and contrast that with historical evidences. Okay, so we can be able to make sure that we are telling the whole story, right? And not just a colonized, homogenized version of history that is set to best suit the colonizers. All right. So with that, we got to make sure now again that we keep these things in mind and we keep these things in the forefront of our brains to make sure that we understand the need to have different mechanisms for survival, to be able to endure, to be able to persevere, so we can make it through these different points and periods and areas and eras of economical depressions, right? And making sure that again we're in control once again of our own history, culture, and narrative. All right. With that being said, let me bring it to the ethereal journalist for any additions.
Man, I love Ashley, Sister Ashley Barron. She is one of those ones who are raising the standard. She is of the remnant, the ones that know that we have to reverse the illusion. We have to reverse the facade that has been created for us to have a mentality to think that this is our true reality when it is not, because the truth has not been told through the right history and her story that should have came out to not allow us to be caught up in these delusions and these illusions, lies, and deception that we currently see. So I salute her for being one of the remnant, one of the ones that are sent to raise the standard up of our people to get back to who we are and to just know ourselves and remember who we are. And with that being said, I yield to Sister Empress.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah, I mean, again, we definitely do not have any excuses at this stage of the game because, as it was mentioned, I think you mentioned it earlier as well, Brother L, that we've been able to make achievements under all types of circumstances, conditions, situations, and do it brilliantly. And so now that there is the capability to at least move about and do a few other things that was really, a lot more difficult to do in past years, we have no excuse. And like Baba Kwame Ture taught very diligently, we must not fail our ancestors.
Indeed, indeed. All right, family. And, again, making sure that, we don't move forward and get complacent and get too comfortable. Okay. And kind of lose some of our agility and abilities to be able to pivot in these type of circumstances and situations. All right. So at least we forget, family. And if so, then we will be in worse shape than we were when we had greater levels of obvious adversity that was in front of us. All right, family. So again, that's why it's so important to know and understand our history. All right. And as Sister Baker had put in the chat, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, family. Just know that these points and periods of time happen circularly. All right. So every 25 to 30 years, you have the same type of upheavals, whether it be social, politically, financially, some type of war breaking out, geopolitically, so on and so forth. All right. So with this information, with this knowledge, you should be utilizing it to be better informed and to be better empowered so you can act proactively. All right. All right, family. So with that being said, let's come to our next clip here and keep this momentum moving. Okay. All right. Now we're going to hear a word from our dear brother, the honorable ancestor Malcolm El Haj Malik El Shabazz, our shining black prince. All right, so let me go ahead and get a screen share and let our great ancestor cook. All right, as we continue.
Tonight, during the few moments that we have, we're going to have a little chat like brothers and sisters and friends and probably enemies too, about the prospects for peace or prospects for freedom in 1965. If you notice, I almost slipped there and said peace. Actually, you can't separate peace from freedom. No one can be at peace unless he has his freedom. You can't separate the two. And this is the thing that makes 1965 so explosive and so dangerous. The people in this country who in the past have been at peace and been peaceful were that way only because they didn't know what freedom was. They let somebody else define it for them. But today, 1965, you find those who have not had freedom and not in a position to define freedom. They're beginning to define it for themselves now. And as they get in a position intellectually to define freedom for themselves, they see that they don't have it. And it makes them less peaceful or less inclined toward peace.
Malcolm X opens this speech by confronting the false sense of peace in America. He questions who really benefits from the promises of freedom. His tone is sharp because the stakes are high. What he describes in 1965 still hits today: inequality, frustration, and the urgency to act. As the speech continues, he turns up the pressure. The next clips show him naming names, breaking down systems, and warning what's coming if things don't change.
So in discussing this topic tonight, prospects for freedom in 1965, I think we have to go back at least 12 years or 10 years to the time when the struggle of the black man in America began to be projected into the limelight, not only in this country, but throughout the world. It started primarily with the Supreme Court decision, so-called desegregation decision, and I should say so-called desegregation, so-called decision, because there has been some doubt as to what they really handed down. One of the main ingredients in the struggle of the black man in America for the past 12 years has been the black Muslim movement. No one can deny the role that the black Muslim movement has played in America during the past 12 years, has been one of the main ingredients in the stepped up militancy on the part of black people throughout this country. No matter what direction the black Muslim movement itself was headed in, no matter what its own organizational philosophy was, and no matter what other people thought about it, no matter what their personal opinions were of the black Muslim movement, still it cannot be denied that that movement, because of its uncompromising stand and uncompromisingly militant approach to things, forced other civil rights organizations to be more militant than they normally would have been, and forced many of the civil rights leaders definitely to be more militant than they ever would have thought of being.
All right, let me stop the screen share there, family. Okay. So, two important aspects there, and, you know, making sure that it's understood what freedom actually is, what that looks like, okay, for us. You know, the terms that we define, okay, what are our current prospects of freedom, all right, and in the understanding, as our ancestors so eloquently elaborated, okay, and so we have to make sure, family, that we are paying attention once again to history so we can learn from our past, so we don't continue to make those same mistakes, and we can push forward and persevere on into our future. All right. With that being said, let me come to the EtheReal journalists. What say you on this matter?
So, you know, for me to always hear Brother Malcolm Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, it's always something there that one can from. No matter how many times you've either heard it or no matter how many times you think you understood, what was being said, there always seems to be more every time, at least for me. With that said, so for those that do not know, we have been doing something called Black Poli Sci 101. And we've had with us already Brother Charles Barron for 2 sessions. We're going to be having soon his wife, his mate, Sister Inez Barron will be joining us. But after that, those sessions, we will have with us for 2 sessions Baba Jalil Montague, who, of course, was in fact a member of the Black Liberation Army. And one of the sessions that we're going to talk about is the history of the Black Liberation Army and other movements that were more progressive and definitely more self-defense oriented. And then we're going to also talk about, past, present, and where it needs to go for the future between those 2 sessions. So I'm saying that to say that it was people like him and Sekou Odinga and Baba Bilal Sunni Ali and others who listened to Brother Malcolm. And from listening to him, they then developed components that was a lot more aggressive. So Brother Malcolm is definitely correct with what he said. The influences, yep, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And Sekou Odinga, Baba ancestor Sekou Odinga, had said, he heard Brother Malcolm. And there were others as well. So, again, we have to pay close attention to our history, to the past, but also how do we move things forward? Because some of our folks paid some serious prices and sacrifices. And to not be able to know and understand it and embrace it, and then be even more, shall we say, capable today, more strategic, of course, but still more capable. I dare say one of the things that Brother Malcolm said very clearly is that, and I'm paraphrasing, in one of his other speeches, he said that, folks ain't going to respect us until we act like we really want to be free. So we're going to have that conversation, like you just asked Brother Lumumba, what does it mean to really be free? What does freedom really entail? We're going to start breaking that down for you. I yield.
Absolutely. I'm kind of brother Pollinator. I just want to add one other thing. One of the main points he was making is that you cannot separate. Because folks is pushing for peace, but he was saying you cannot separate peace from freedom. All right, so freedom must be attained first and foremost before we can ever think about having peace. I'm kind of brother Pollinator on that.
All right, let's get heavy like a Chevy on the 50th. Man, I say that, first of all, I want to shout out to brother who plays Brother Malcolm X in the show Godfather of Harlem. I just got finished watching that final episode when they came up on him. Yeah. And rolled up on our ancestor Malcolm X in the Audubon Ballroom. And I mean, that brother played that part, man, to the point where I'm like, is this, he like really embodied the spirit of Malcolm X in that part. I just want to shout out to him first and foremost. But pertaining to the actual speech, as well as some of the commentary, like what you just said, Sister Chi and Brother Lumumba, I think that when we look at freedom, we definitely got to break that word down, because let's be real. The last 3 words are dome. Free dome. Free dome. Your damn dome. Your head. Take the chain or the chains off your brain, because that's where freedom begins, in your consciousness. Where the seat of your authority of your mind is at, which is in your pineal gland, penile, the face of El, the one that gives you the ability to see through deception as well as have better intuition, as well as better discernment. And it's coming only within your dome, your free dome. You got to free your dome in order for your kingdom to be righteous, because your kingdom is an expansion of your free dome of your mind and your consciousness being raised to the level in which you could be operating in a world where everyone else is pretty much Hebrew slaves going to 9 to 5s, chasing that dangling carrot, but you walking around here free because you're free, your dome is freed. Prime example would be Brother Mumia Abu Jamal. He's a prime example of having a freed dome. You feel me? So I just wanted to tap on that a little bit as well, because, you know, when we talk about freedom, it ain't from it's not from physical slavery anymore. It's from mental slavery and the chains that are on our brains, because a lot of people are not in physical jails, but they are in jail mentally. Matter of fact, they are in prison. They are upstate, man, doing life in prison in their own freaking head. I yield.
Indeed. Right. And thank you for that addition, Brother Pollinator. All right, with that being said,
And you know, there's a song, but there's also a saying in the hood: free your mind and the rest will follow.
Indeed.
Wasn't that our good sisters? What was it? Oh my gosh, what was the group's name that said "Free Your Mind"?
In Vogue.
In Vogue. There you go.
All right, family, let's keep it rocking. And let's continue to make sure that we are reshaping the narrative according to actual facts, right? And world history, okay? As opposed to, you know, the type of programming and propaganda that is most often utilized in order to continue with, you know, oppression, disenfranchisement, so on and so forth. So what we're doing now is we're breaking through some of these barriers, you know, and we're able to remove some of the BS, you know, out the way, so we can clearly see, you know, what the actual true and correct history is. All right. So let's jump back into it.
Trends within the Black community, such as higher crime rates or higher illegitimacy rates, that could explain their position vis-a-vis whites? And can those be explained by some dominant social group?
No.
No to the first one, or
no to both.
So there's no.
I mean, it's there's a propagandistic mechanism that's afloat about, you know, Black illegitimacy and Black criminality. I guess it depends on what kind of crime you have in mind. If we think about which community in the United States has the highest degree of history of violence, that's unquestionably white Americans. Unquestionably. I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware of the 100 massacres that were conducted between the end of the Civil War and World War II that were directed against Black communities throughout the United States, in which thousands of Blacks were killed and the white terrorists appropriated Black-owned property. So there's no segment of the population that has a greater history of violence than white Americans. So when you talk about these kinds of matters to me, you're actually mouthing a set of propagandistic claims that are made on the right in the United States, and they do not have a foundation in fact.
Are there any trends within the Black community, such as higher crime rates or higher illegitimacy?
All right. So again, you know, we can see how, you know, these type of narratives are formulated and how they are perpetuated, and why it's important for us to know our history, have our facts in check and together, so we can offer these very quick and very astute rebuttals. All right, so this false narrative and information. Let me come to the theory of journalists with some additions on this.
Yeah, that's to piggyback off what you were saying, Captain Cage. I think that, you know, when it comes to all the dissemination of lies that we have bought into and that have brainwashed us to the point where now not only do we need deprogramming, we need reprogramming to build back up from the roots of who we are as a people and who they need to respect us as the creators of civilizations. through our great mother, the queen mother of the universe, that happened in the ethereal realm and it manifested in this natural realm of time and space in which we currently exist in this matrix right now, this earth matrix. So the bottom line is they got to respect that. And that's a bloodline thing. That's a lineage thing, a spiritual lineage thing that has manifested into a physical thing. And we come from those royal bloodlines and lineages of the primordials, the ones that started the great technologies on this planet, the great civilizations on this planet. And they don't respect us because we have not stood up for our own selves, because we bought into what they've sold us. They've sold us just like they sold us into slavery during the transatlantic slave trade. They've sold us information and we bought in hook, line, and sinker. And that's one of the problems that we currently have. We have to deprogram our people first and foremost to gain wisdom, meaning let their dome get some wisdom in it so that they can understand that you don't come from what they told you came from. You come from the greatness of the gods and goddesses, the queens and the kings, the prophets and the seers, the judges and the righteous high priestess of the creator on this planet. That's where we come from. We don't come from this foolishness that they programmed us to believe in through their miseducation. So that's one of the things that, just what the guy was saying, as well as what we've been talking about, sort of like kind of being the theme for the night. We have to daggone start having some serious deprogramming and reprogramming efforts so that we can gain the wisdom to gain the kingdom back or the queendom back, as well as to gain our freedom. And that's going to be all internal. And that's the problem that we're having right now. We're trying to do it from an external perspective, as a physical perspective, as opposed to an internal perspective, each individual handling their selves first and foremost, because they're gaining knowledge of self and to know themselves. I yield.
So again, for me, it's been a situation where these things have been, again, going on for a while. I mean, even when we talk about folk working to become free from a more internal perspective. Brother Malcolm talked about the Nation of Islam. Well, that was 70 years plus. And you got to know that some of what was being taught was, in fact, on the metaphysical level or the spiritual level. I mean, it wasn't all just Islam, like book stuff like that. There was some science stuff that was being taught. The same thing with the 5%ers, same thing with Good, Bad, or Indifferent, oh gosh, what was it called? Dr. York's group. But anyway, my point is...
Nubians.
Right, Nubians, right. So I'm saying yeah, but that too has also been going on. Meaning the teachings, some of the applications, some of the the attempts or whatever to do those things, that's been going on for at least 70 years. And that's why I say we got to be very careful in looking at things from a perspective, because some think that it's like right now, and it is right now, but we got to look at the historical significance. This is very, very important, because folks will be starting from a place, once again, that they don't need to be starting from. Because some of that information, some of those teachings, some of those other kinds of insights are already there, been there, you see. And I think what has happened, people have gotten away from recognizing that these things have already happened. And as a result, folks be starting from a place that they don't need to be starting from at this stage of the game. The mere fact, again, that when we talked about Mount C.J. Walker a few days ago, that was 100 years ago. I mean, this is ridiculous. So what I'm saying is, what you just said, Al, is things that have been said for more than 70 years, some of it anyway, for more than 70 years. And of course, we got more advanced stuff that, that we've learned and that we share. But some of these fundamentals, when you read, for those who haven't read Dr. Richard King, please do.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because when you talk about the pineal gland and things of that nature, the Uranus, they was teaching all of that.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so I'm saying, look, y'all, come on now. Let's stop acting like we still in kindergarten.
I think too, Sister T, as we talked about before during one of our meetings between us, the ethereal journalists, I think we having to break down the whole thing about religion is definitely going to be something that we really
Yeah.
are going to tap
Oh,
into,
yeah.
because we know that religion has probably much been a hindrance and a stumbling block for us as a people, because it divides and conquers us, as we know. Because at the end of the day, let's be real, they created the religions to do that. They're doing what they're doing that was intended to do when they put all these things in place. Realigning, I call it realigning the legions, meaning to keep us in a box to develop sheeple instead of people. We got too many followers instead of ones that go out there and actually each one teach one, so that that person can raise up their consciousness to the level where we're talking about, where we know ourselves. So now when we get together collectively, ain't no religion in the middle of it. I'm not nobody's sheeple. You're nobody's sheeple. We are people. We are ethereal people first and foremost, meaning we have our own self-independence, self-sufficiency, and knowledge of ourselves. And I think when we start getting into these more higher topics concerning the religious philosophies that have created sheeple, to the point where they rather just go to church on Sunday and think that they're going to be delivered and saved, versus getting out here and saving themselves by first and foremost collectively coming together as a people, as one. But no, religion is a box that they intentionally made for us to be entrapped in. And now you currently see the residual effects. You see the fruits from that root that was planted, and we bought it into religions, whether it's Islam, whether it's Judaism, whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, whatever you want to call it. We bought into it hook, line, and sinker. And that's why they could do the bread, wine, and circus. Give them some entertainment, give them some religion, while we behind the scenes, getting the big money grab. I yield.
Indeed. And so again, why I thought it was important to kind of lay the groundworks to look at and this is why these videos are kind of played in succession in the fashion that they have. So we can look at the foundations, look at the fundamentals, look at from what we've come from and to where we are now, so we can do a proper compare and contrast, a proper analysis of our situation, stemming from our past, to our present, and how we're going to move forward into the future. I think a lot of part of the problem is that, well, for one, even though this information has been taught, it's been in pockets. It's been, if you were a part of this group organization, if you were part of the Nation of Islam, if you were a part of the 5% nation, if you were a part of this and part of that, you got the information. If you weren't, you didn't. It's a lot of people who don't have this information fundamentally. They don't know nothing about what we're talking about. Right. And so that's why it's important for us to hold these spaces in order to make sure that we are continuing to matriculate and perpetuate this information, so that we making sure we fill in those gaps. There's a lot of gaps that are within the communications, within the generations. All right. And, there are a lot of the past generation who do know this information, who have had it and has failed to execute on some of this knowledge and know-how. And so we had to make sure that the next generation doesn't miss, as Sister Empress was saying, doesn't have to restart from different points where we've already made progress, because they don't know the history and the narrative of our illustrious ancestors. So that's why it's important, again, that we hold these spaces and have these type of media outlets in order to usher in present and future generations, and so that we don't continue to chase our tails and go in perpetual motion as opposed to moving forward.
The griots ain't grioing, and the dot connectors ain't connecting the dots. That's what's going on. And there's the disconnect right there. And we always talk about connecting these dots, whether they're ancient, whether they're modern, whether they're recent times. We have to start connecting these dots again, because there has been a failure of not only our own educational system within our own culture and within our own people, but the society in general could care less about connecting these dots for us, because the griots used to pass down information through the oral tradition versus reading it in a book in a doggone schoolhouse.
And if I could add in another aspect and element, is once folks make some sort of forward motion, once they make some progress, then in a lot of cases, you know, they forget about some of the fundamentals, some of the
Boom.
foundation, and you know, they feel, you know, some folks feel as though they have arrived, and so
Mm-hmm.
some of those movements haven't moved forward as well because they've been abandoned. You know, people have made different progress, social, politically. You know, if they're moving in different aspects economically, now they're in the middle class, so they feel as though they've made it. So they're
Yep.
not continuing in these same veins because they feel as though in their minds, in some aspects, they already are free. You know, because they can get some of the trappings, they can have the nice car, the nice house, so on and so forth. And so, you know, again, people get complacent, you know, and people, you know, begin to start to compromise, right? And they get comfortable. And so this is what we're seeing. This is why I believe some of what Empress was alluding to, what she was mentioning previously, why some of these things have occurred and why it seems like we have to continue to go back and go to different points that we've already passed and not be able to move forward. So I
We got to
believe,
break the cycle, man. We got to break the continuous cycle being recycled, and we keep going around in that circle over and over again and being insane with that circle. And what's the old saying? You know, when you're going around, looping around, you become insane. You become chasing your tail. And how you gonna go forward if you only study busy chasing your damn tail, going around and around and around? That's
so
our
with that,
problem right now.
yeah,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's why I wanted to be able to kind of answer some of those questions and to have that analysis of why is it that, you know, we're talking about the same thing 75 years later. Why, you know, who's dropped the ball, where it's been dropped at, who needs to pick up the ball, who's responsible, and how do we get that ball to the present and future generations to make sure that we don't continue in these cycles of perpetuation.
You're here. You're here. Mhm.
That's again part of our job, part of our responsibility, and what we do here on the EtheReal Journey podcast. All right. So with that being said, let's continue on. All right, let me share my screen one more again. All right, now this is a good brother, Michael Ford. Okay. And shout out to this brother. He always giving us some great information as well.
Systematic racism that has been legally allowed in America.
Let me bring it back one more time, see if I can get that timing right.
Let's talk about it.
The only systematic racism that has been legally allowed in America in recent years is against white people. Things like DEI, things like job quotas, things like Black-only business loans, right? This has all been working against the white people who created this country, and I'm sick and tired of pretending that it's not.
I'm Dr. Michael H. Ford, and let's talk about what you just saw. She said the only systematic racism legally allowed in America today is against white people. DEI, job quotas, Black-only business loans. White people created this country. 5 claims. Let's go one by one. Claim 1. The only systematic racism legally allowed today is against white people. The Federal Reserve's own data shows the median white family holds $284,000 in wealth compared to $44,100 for the median Black family. That is a gap of more than 6 times. A 2024 Zillow survey of 12,000 adults found that 69% of Black Americans reported experiencing housing discrimination in their lifetime. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in the third quarter of 2025, Black workers earned $970 per week compared to $1,238 for white workers. If systematic racism against Black people ended, somebody forgot to tell the data. Claim 2. DEI discriminates against white people. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is defined by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission as the practice of creating fair and inclusive workplaces that ensure equal opportunities for all employees. DEI does not exclude white people. It addresses documented barriers that prevent equal access. That is not discrimination. That is correction. And here's the part that nobody talks about. You ready? The group that has benefited most from DEI in corporate America is white women. According to McKinsey's 2025 Women in the Workplace report, the largest study of its kind, white women hold 23% of C-suite positions, while women of color hold just 7%. The policy she's calling racist has done more for people who look like her than for anyone else. Claim 3, job quotas. Race-based hiring quotas are not DEI, they are illegal. The Society for Human Resource Management states explicitly that setting specific hiring or promotion quotas based on race is a direct violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. DEI and quotas are not the same thing. Calling them the same thing is not an argument, it is a lie. Claim 4, Black-only business loans. The SBA's own 2023 data shows that despite white Black Americans, making up 13% of the population, Black business owners received only 4.6% of SBA loan funding, while white business owners received 42.3%. There are no Black-only federal business loans. The data shows the exact opposite problem. Claim 5, white people created this country. The White House was built by enslaved Black people. The United States Capitol was built by enslaved Black people. This is confirmed by the White House Historical Association and the National Archives, which holds the actual wage rolls documenting their labor. The cotton economy that funded America's Industrial Revolution was built on 246 years of unpaid Black labor. You cannot erase the builders from the building. 5 claims, 5 failures, not one supported by law, data, or history. The most dangerous misinformation is not the kind that sounds extreme. No, it is the kind that sounds confident. Now you have the facts. Use them. Healing starts with knowing. Follow for more.
And let me stop it right there. Okay. And so again, we're looking at, how do we defeat false narratives? Okay. And to be able to make sure that, we are correcting the record, right? And making sure we're fact checking and coming with the receipts. Okay. Because, we have a lot of instances of illusion, delusion, and cognitive dissonance. And this is how, these lies are allowed to continue to perpetuate. All right. And this is, again, part of the nature of this type of media outlet, this type of programming, is to make sure we're fighting against false narratives. And this is how we do it with the receipts, family. All right. So with that being said, let me come to the EtheReal journalist for any additions on this.
First and foremost, let's be real about what she was saying. She ain't nothing but a damn NPC. She ain't got no damn soul. Let's be real about it. She comes from the NPC manufacturing plant and factory, just like a lot of them that have bought into that script, that program, that algorithm, or that code that was sent out to put that nonsense out into the atmosphere, into the stratosphere. And the sad thing about it is when you have people like that speak that kind of nonsense, it sort of validates all the other NPCs who ain't got no souls, who are nothing but extras on this movie set. They haven't even read the script. They haven't even read the story. And even if they read the script or the story, they can't get anything out of it that's going to provoke their thoughts because they're already programmed. So I just want to, validate everything the brother was saying as a countermeasure or counter argument to what she was saying, because she ain't nothing but probably from the bloodlines and the lineages of the Cabbage Patch Kids. That's what you see running around here now. A bunch of programmed, algorithm type of individuals that have nothing to do but being extras on this movie set. They're not main characters. They don't have main character energy. They're just people that are just set upon you to stop you from elevating, because their job is to just roll with the program, roll with the script that has been written for them. And that was in their codes. That's in their DNA. I yield.
All right. Coming over to Sister Empress if you had any additions on that. Okay. Sister Empress I think she was in transit, so she might got to get her mic together. All right. All right, family. So with that being said, let us continue to move on. All right. And being able to fight false narratives with facts. All right. So this is in part and partial of what we do. Okay. With that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen and let's get to this next clip. And this is just a glimpse, a quick example of what it is that's being described. You're talking about systemic racism. I mean, it's incredible that this is even, something to be debated, right? But, we're going to continue to bring the facts and bring the receipts to make sure that there is a clear understanding of what actually is. All right, let me go ahead and let's get it rolling.
Shelby police officer was fired after repeatedly punching a woman during an arrest. A warning, this video is disturbing. This all happened yesterday. According to the department, officers encountered a woman described by them as suspicious while conducting a criminal investigation. The police chief called the officer's actions disturbing and inappropriate. They have yet to release the name of the officer. The woman was arrested and charged with breaking and entering, assault on a government official, and resisting arrest.
Quick clip there, family. Let me go ahead and stop my screen share there. Okay, so we just saw a prime example of systemic racism. right? Right there in the department of those who are supposed to serve and protect. And we've seen this all throughout history. We've seen the sick and the dogs. We've seen the fire hoses. We've seen the beatings by protesters and so forth. And just the wanting and pushing for humanity, for human rights, for civil rights. Okay. And that, 50, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, but these things are still happening to this day. And when we talk about systemic, this is what we're talking about because it's ingrained within society, within different aspects of the legal system, within different aspects of legislation, even within the very Constitution, which is the foundation of quote unquote, this new experiment of America. All right, where it states in the 13th Amendment that individuals can still be enslaved, all right, if they are, guilty or found guilty on criminal charges. All right. So, again, proof positive, family, on who is the victims and where is the archetype and architecture of systemic racism and how it functions and how it is applied. It's a prime example. And if you saw even the black officer that was there, he couldn't do anything about it. He was grabbing the victim, trying to pull her, while the European officer continued to assault her and punch her in the face. He didn't grab the officer and hold him, stop him from punching the female and pull him off. He grabbed the person that was being assaulted. He grabbed the victim because it's a system and he's part of it. And so he doesn't want to do anything to rock the boat, to cause any waves. He doesn't want to seem like he's going against the blue shields, the thin blue line. Okay. And so this is how things really function and operate. This is what's really going on. With that being said, let me come to the theory of journalists when he had this on this.
I don't know if Sister Chi back on point or not. But Sister Chi, you back? Probably not. Check 1, 2. Can you hear me, Captain of Cage?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and chime in since she's not responding yet. It's funny because me and my mother was just talking about this incident this morning, matter of fact. And now you got ambulance chaser Crump running around down there trying to be the one that's going to be the checkmate man, coming there and bringing the media hysteria to try to go ahead and get Shelby Police Department to pretty much bow down because that it was caught on camera as we seen, and get a quick payout on that ambulance chasing that he does. But I used to work in Shelby, right there where all that happened, when I used to work for the Department of Health and Human Service for the state of North Carolina in public health, doing investigations for disease control. And that area was one of my areas. Cleveland, it's called Cleveland County, and Shelby is the main city in Cleveland County. But those police officers, I used to be always looking at how they would run up on a lot of our black brothers and sisters. You would always see along that main highway drag, Highway 74, them pulling over, mainly, melanated, carbonated people, or even a lot of times you'll see the Hispanic brothers and sisters that are being pulled over by them racist cops down there. Okay. Now, them are the same racist cops that when the boy that killed those or unalived those 9 parishioners in Charleston back a few years ago, them the same cops that had him sitting right there in that Burger King. I'll never forget. I stopped going to that. I never went to Burger King anyways. I hated the place because, but they gave him Burger King. They gave him his, his big Whopper with a milkshake and some French fries before they arrested him and took him on into the precinct. Same cops now. Thanks. That's where he got arrested at, right there in Shelby, North Carolina, right there off of 74, where that Burger King is, and the police department is like right around the corner. Because I used to go to the health department to take some of my clients that I actually found when I was doing my investigations for different diseases. I would take them to the health departments right there, not too far from the police department down there. So to make a long story short, I know how those racist pigs down there get down. They ain't nothing but a runaway slave patrol, like the other 18,000 slave patrols that are set up around this country, after the whole, slave plantation security forces that they had back then. That's all they're doing. They're just a arm of all those things that happened back during that time. So with that being said, I don't, I know those cops down there. They would look at me and I would like, yeah, I work for the health department. I got a badge right here, yo. Don't come over here messing with me. I ain't one of the locals that y'all keeping under your oppressive daggone state. Out of here with that.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you for that addition. As a matter of fact, I do have that follow-up video. Let's take a look.
Video we've been showing you of a violent arrest in Shelby is now picking up more traction nationwide. Civil rights attorneys now in the city demanding justice as an officer in this video appears in court for the first time. WBTV is on your side tonight with live team coverage.
And the cloud cover and some of that rain we had through the majority of our day finally clearing out, at least briefly. Still tracking.
What are you going to do about the police department? I said the police department didn't do this. A crooked, racist, individual, evil person done this.
Outrage in Shelby. This video of a woman being tackled and then punched by a police officer again and again has drawn criticism from the community and now nationwide. Thank you for joining us live at 5. I'm Daryl Green and for John Carter.
And I'm Siobhan Bryan. High-profile civil rights attorney Ben Crump now demanding what he calls full justice in the case against the officer involved. We're on your side with live team coverage.
WBTV's Darian Henderson was inside the courtroom where that officer in the video made his first court appearance today.
But we start with our Michael Warth live to explain exactly what Crump means by full justice. Michael.
Yeah, he says partial justice came when Shelby police fired the officer in that now viral video. But Crump says in this case, partial justice isn't good enough.
Justice for Sherry Moore.
Leading a chant of justice, civil rights attorney Ben Crump arrives to applause. Beside him, Sharia Moore appearing with a black eye. She's the woman seen on video being punched by a now former Shelby police officer who now faces an assault charge.
Outright inhumane. Amen. Where is the humanity for Sherry Moore?
Crump says the beating left Moore with a broken nose. His team alleges the 34-year-old Shelby native was having a mental health crisis the day she encountered police.
We all must stand for Sherry, and today we're standing. We stand for Sherry today, so it won't be you and your family tomorrow. Justice for Sherry Moore.
Moore took the microphone briefly.
Definitely want to say thank you. I'm happily surprised.
She said little, but people like Norma Mack tell me the community is helping be her voice.
It just hurt me. It hurt me really bad.
Norma lives close to where the incident happened.
It was really good. The energy was high. And I'm glad that the album came out to support her. I'm really glad. And I feel like the justice will be done.
Crump closed with a rallying cry that he'll represent Moore with the intention of getting full justice, meaning a conviction and civil accountability.
I don't care what they try to allege, nothing can justify what we saw in that video. Nothing.
Well, court documents show that 2 of the 3 charges that Moore faced have now been dropped. Crump questioned today whether anything would have happened had the incident not been captured on video. We're live in Shelby. Michael Warwick, WBTV, on your side.
All right, let me stop the screen share there. All right, so we'll keep y'all updated and abreast as things continue to unfold with this case.
Hey, I would like to give a shout out to WBTV Channel 3 CBS. That's from out of Charlotte, which, like I said, is not too far from Shelby. They're the ones that did the syphilis tsunami piece with me and put that whole thing out into the atmosphere in order for people to start seeing that there was a problem going on in Mecklenburg County as well as in Shelby or Cleveland County and all of North Carolina and now all of America in the whole 9 yards, because that WBTV does some great investigative reporting. So I just want to send a shout out to them, because when I went to Crump to get me a lawyer, right, and he was doing the justice forum at Livingstone College back in maybe about March of 2023. And I told him that this thing about the syphilis tsunami is getting ready to blow up. Hey, I need you to take on my case. And I went to the justice forum when they were talking about the young lady that went to Mexico that got unalived by her friends, and she was originally from Charlotte. So I went down there to plug into him so he could represent me on my case. And what ended up happening was he got me a local lawyer to build the case up. That's what they do. They build the case up with a local lawyer. Then he comes in as the checkmate man on a whole level of bringing media hysteria and chaos in order to make the entity bow down and go ahead and settle out of court. That's his MO. But that's what I was going to him because not only was he a great lawyer at doing that, which is, well, I knew what he's going to do if he would have took the syphilis tsunami case on. I figured, shoot, if he does that, at least the information to get out, I'll get my justice. But it never came that way, and pretty much he got me with a local lawyer to build up the case, and that local lawyer sold me out. To make a long story short, he tried to have me settle with some crumbs on top of what we initially demanded from the Mecklenburg County government, and of course, Crump was supposed to come in and be the checkmate man and go ahead and force them into a bigger settlement, but it never happened. So that's the reason why I say these things about him. I have a direct connection with him through my case, which they tried to sell me out with some crumbs, and I didn't take the crumbs. I said, man, I'm going to continue on with my syphilis tsunami thing. I'm going to keep on putting these news articles out that WBTV gave me so that I could utilize as a part of my public service announcements and bringing forth my public awareness campaign concerning the syphilis tsunami. So believe me, I know how that man gets down. I know how all of them get down in North Carolina. But anyways, I yield.
All right. Give thanks for that addition, Brother Pollinator. All right. Any additions, Sister Empress? I'm not sure if she's able to get her microphone together yet. Okay, does not look like it. All right, so let me keep it moving, family. Let me go to my next clip here, and let's keep this train rolling and keep this rocket ship blasting off. All right.
Supreme, why do they have to work so hard to try to make everything difficult for Black people? I really wish I was joking, but damn near everything that complicates daily life for everybody was just to deny Black people access. Credit scores were a means to stop Black people from getting loans to be able to buy homes and to be able to start businesses. Marriage licenses weren't instituted until they wanted to stop interracial marriage. Most colleges were free until desegregation. You didn't even have a bar exam to become a lawyer until the Reconstruction era because so many Black people were getting law degrees. Bridges were purposely built lower in some areas to deny people from public transit access and to deny people from being able to get to richer areas, more wealthy areas with that public transit, which also ended up denying them from certain job opportunities. So your options were limited. And now if you just happen to live in one of those broke areas and you don't have a car, the same thing still applies no matter what color you are. We already know that cops got their origins in slave patrols, tracking and controlling where Black people went and where they were allowed to go and bringing them back to where they wanted them to be if they've somehow got out of that region. You feel what I'm saying? And California only passed anti-open carry gun laws because the Black Panthers were open carrying in front of these cops and basically telling them what the hell you gonna do about it. Usually people who feel supreme to another group of people don't have so much fear in their heart. They usually don't feel like they have to deny people access because if we have the same access, you would really be able to show how supreme you are because you would outdo us in everything if we had the same access, right? But that's the problem. You're afraid that we would outdo you in everything mentally the same way we outdo you in everything physically. It's the same reason they constantly prop up athletes and musicians, you know, people that entertain because that's what we're good for, a little tap dancing for the white man. But they won't tell you about James Baldwin or Angela Davis or W.E.B. Du Bois or, you know, they'll show you a couple of Langston Hughes poems, but they won't really dive into it and really tell you what he's talking about for real because he's talking about them and talking about our strength and intellect as Black people. They don't want to tell you about Patrice Lumumba or how Muammar Gaddafi tried to unite all of Africa because that would show you that you have some power. That would show you that, you know, when your people come together, they can really do something. Nah. All you're good for is sports and dancing and singing, right? This is exactly why I say that it's not white supremacy. It's white narcissism, which is actually white fragility rooted in a massive inferiority complex. A lot of y'all really just need to go to therapy so you can grow your self-worth. Oh, Pookie. I just got a question to roll with me on this one. If white supremacists actually feel like they're supreme, why do they have to work so hard to try to make everything difficult for black people?
All right, let me stop the screen share there. Okay. So again, in fighting the false narratives, when we're looking at the concepts of systemic racism, all right, these are again a series of examples that the brother was listing and naming out. Okay, with the different laws and legislations that was passed, and ratified to make sure that black folks were underprivileged, were underserved, were underrepresented. Okay, and again, battling against some of these false narratives of quote unquote white supremacy. When if you really look at it, it is different aspects of inferiority complex, the fear of genetic annihilation, and overcompensation in a lot of these different cases. So again, you just want to set the record straight, right, and bring the facts and the receipts and those aspects of supporting evidence. All right, family. Let me come to the EtheReal journalist.
Yeah, Captain Cage. I just want to shout out all of the real warriors and warrioresses, the women and men who are actually on social media sites putting out this type of great information and research and facts. I definitely want to shout them out because, see, we do our due diligence to vet these videos before we bring them on to the EtheReal Journalists show. But we do tap into make sure that these individuals are vetted. We make sure that the information is correct because we do our own fact checking and our own research before we even invite their voices to be heard on the EtheReal Journey podcast. So I just want to shout out to all of the brothers and sisters that are putting out content that are bringing forth the truth and revelation so that we can continue to raise the consciousness of our communities. And a lot of times, let's be real, social media is one of the best mediums in order to reach the audience you're trying to reach, in order to bring forth this information. So I just want to shout them out, as well as, the EtheReal Journalists, as we continue on deprogramming our people and reprogramming them as we're trying to do, not trying, but what we're doing right now on bringing forth information such as this. So I just want to shout out to everybody that does those type of, are engaged in those type of efforts.
Absolutely. We give credit where credit is due. Shout out to those content creators. We shout them out, we big them up, and we don't gatekeep. All right, family. So we want to make sure that we're sharing this information, and bigging those individuals up, so they can continue to grow and develop as well on their channels, on their platforms, and so forth. All right.
That's right. And they're kicking the truth, man. Anything that's truth related, man, I'm always down for that. I'm a listening ear. I'm a sponge because it just betters my knowledge and information as well. Because I'm a work in progress. I haven't arrived yet when it concerns the highest level of consciousness. I don't think none of us are, but we are trying to get there. And that's the beauty of the journey of being in the ethereal journey, is we're all trying to get there when you truly have the pureness in the heart to do the right intention and motivation within yourself to continue to better yourself and raise up your elevation of consciousness. I yield.
Indeed. And so, we can do that collectively. It's not, we don't go for the divide and conquer type of mentality and methodology. We can do this collectively. We can put out our information simultaneously while bigging up others that's putting out their information, seeing where those through lines are at, and being able to function and work collectively to make sure that overall it is lending towards the further growth, development, elevation, enlightenment, and empowerment of our people.
As well as, yeah, as well as programming the other nations of people that are not of melanated, carbonated, or black, skin colors. They need to be educated just as much as our own people. So a lot of these content creators are even changing the minds of some of these people that had bought into the lies and the deception and the illusions that have been cast upon them. And I sort of feel for the nations as well, because the nations they got caught up in the matrix. They got caught up in the lies and the deception. So now we're deprogramming not only our own people, but we're also deprogramming the nations. You know? So
Absolutely. And while you mention that, jumping into our next video, this is a prime example, family. Let's let it roll. Got to get the volume right. Let me bring it back.
Yes.
How so? Do you think black people are owed reparations?
Yes.
How so?
I think in the same way that Germany acknowledged Hitler and South Africa acknowledged apartheid, we have never in this country acknowledged slaves. And that's part of what's so terrifying, is those words are disappearing. I don't think until you acknowledge and apologize, you can move forward. I don't think there's any possible way. I think it's disgusting how we built this country, and I'm ashamed of it. And I think we owe black people.
Do you think black people are owed reparations?
All right, let me stop the screen share there. Okay. So that's just one example, as Brother Pollinator was hinting at, of, how the truth, how, enlightenment and information can help to wash out the false preconceived notions and the false narratives, and to get us to a point where we can move forward, all right, in a positive and progressive manner.
Yep. I think that in our ethereal journey, we can't forget about the nations, because see, the nations have bought into the lies as well, and that's the reason why they have to continue to be deprogrammed and reprogrammed to think of the truth. Because see, once the truth hits and presses into the earth, it brings forth three things. It brings forth conviction. It brings forth repentance, meaning y'all got to repent for this shit, because a lot of y'all ancestors, y'all benefited off of what they did concerning your entitlement and concerning all the things that you gained through generational wealth and the whole nine. And then the final thing it brings forth is that atonement. There has to be those three things and elements once truth is pressed into a person's consciousness. It has to bring forth conviction, repentance, and then atonement. And that goes across the board for all of other nations of people, not just for the black or carbonated melanated nations, but all nations of people. I don't care what you call yourself color-wise. I yield.
All right, absolutely. Okay, let's keep it rolling, family, and let me come to my next piece of information. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. And this examples, folks be like, talking about the past, that was so long ago. That was in the past. Why don't you just move forward? And this type of rhetoric. But it's interesting because I don't hear the same type of sentiments as it pertains to other people and other plights, right, and other aspects of history, such as the quote unquote Jewish community. All right, and so they will never allow you to forget the Holocaust. All right, so to say that to us, I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. All right, and so. Let's check it out here, family. I got a clip on this too, so we'll go to that in a hot second. But just reading off this title, France acknowledges need for slavery reparations. Macron falls short of concrete commitments, all right, which is one of the things that we have to push past, all right? We're not looking for rhetoric, not looking for empty promises. We're looking for tangibles, all right? But this is a step in the right direction and something we can still utilize as ammunition to push and move forward in our fight for reparations and reparatory justice. All right. French President Emmanuel Macron addressed the need for reparations and the connection with France's roles in the transatlantic slave trade on May the 21st. Macron said that reparations for enslavement crimes should no longer be ignored. He also warned against false promises, emphasizing that the legacy of enslavement could never be fully repaired because it was impossible. Macron backed the symbolic repeal of the never abolished Code Noir, which were royal decrees from the 17th and 18th century that governed enslavement in French colonies. All right. So this is not only practice, this was law. Okay, so when we're talking about, again, systemic racism, this is what we're talking about. This is what we mean. Okay, not whatever that nonsense that other Euro woman was talking about. All right, this is the actual factual. With that being said, let me stop my screen share here and let me jump into this this video to support some of this evidence. All right, give me 1 second. I'll pull that video up, and just a short clip into the actual proceedings that went on with this declaration on this decision. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen and let's keep it rocking. Okay. After a tearful debate, French lawmakers repeal century-old slavery law. Okay, this is centuries old, and this has just been addressed about a little over a week ago.
Nous ne sommes pas des descendants d'esclaves.
We are not the descendants of slaves.
Nous sommes les descendants
We are the descendants of human beings who are born free,
d'êtres humains nés libres, puis réduits
then reduced to slavery.
en esclavage.
The Code Noir in French refers to a set of decrees issued by the French monarchy in the 17th and 18th centuries.
Pendant des siècles dans notre
For centuries in our country, the law has condoned the unconscionable.
pays, la loi a accepté l'indigne. Elle a accepté
It has accepted that one human being could be the property of
qu'un être
another.
humain puisse appartenir à un autre. Elle a accepté
It has accepted that children were torn from their
que
mothers,
des enfants soient arrachés à leur mère, que des femmes soient vendues,
that women
que
were
des
sold,
hommes soient
and men were
marqués,
branded, whipped, and
offerts,
mutilated.
fouettés, mutilés.
The National Assembly voted unanimously to repeal the law. Motion will now move to the Senate for approval.
Aujourd'hui est un pas supplémentaire en hommage aux hommes et aux femmes, aux enfants mis en esclavage. À ces hommes et ces femmes mis en esclavage, et d'où je viens.
I am descendant. The law classifies enslaved people as movable property, giving slave owners power over their lives and their deaths. France ran the third largest slave trade in the world after Britain and Portugal.
Alors oui, abroger le code noir est nécessaire, mais aucun vote ne pourra réparer à lui seul des siècles de vie brisées. Et la grandeur
Excuse me, and the greatness of our republic is not measured only by what it commemorates.
d'une république ne se mesure pas seulement à ce qu'elle commémore, elle se mesure aussi
It is also measured by how it still protects human dignity.
à la manière dont elle protège aujourd'hui encore.
In March, France abstained from the United Nations vote to call slavery. All right, let me stop my screen share there. Okay, family. So just a bit of supporting evidence. All right, for the latest declaration in France, although they were ones who abstained from the United Nations declaration stating that slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, chattel slavery, was the gravest crime against humanity. Okay, so again, we want to keep aware and abreast of these things that are happening and taking place in present and the different legislations, different aspects of countries and nations, and what is being put forward for the fight for reparations.
Hold up, you saying France? They were part of the 123, right?
No, they abstained.
Oh snap! I was about to give them some kudos because I know a lot of the Haitian population. They were influenced by the France, with all their language and things like that, as well as my family that's part of Louisiana on my maternal mother's side. They were French Creoles, and matter of fact, we traced our history back to a little French village in some part of southern France, and this was years ago. And that's why a lot of our family's names are French names, like Andre, Bernadette, Annette, Oran, Dion. A lot of our names come from that side, which they came over here as free people. They weren't enslaved. They were, but they lived in places like Lafayette, Opelousas, as well as New Orleans down at the boot, near the boot of New Orleans, Louisiana in particular. So I was getting ready to give them some props, but France has done what they've done. They've done some good and they've done some bad, and not signing the 100, not being one of the 123 signers of that, the gravest crime of humanity. That's sort of like that's a nick on their record. You know what I mean? In my eyes, but when it comes to my heritage, I know on my maternal mother's side of things, I know we have a lot of French blood in us. So I yield with that one.
All right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for that addition, Brother Pollinator. All right. And let's come to our next clip. All right. And keep this thing blasting off.
Or maybe I say the French got more blood. We got blood. They got our blood in them instead of us having their blood. Let me rephrase that.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right. And with that, we're going to tap into a little bit more so what's happening internationally, geopolitically. Okay. And we're going to come back over to the States afterwards.
Now, the settler class controlling Cape Town, they're building an apartheid wall in South Africa right now. The settler class controlling Cape Town is spending about $7 million to wall South African communities away from a major road. They're calling it safety, but we know what to call it. You see, the settler class doesn't care about safety for South African people, because if they did, they would repatriate stolen land and resources accumulated during apartheid. What this is about is control. Cape Town generates 10% of South Africa's entire GDP. And with the Red Sea in conflict, global shipping is rerouting around the Cape, making it the most strategically valuable coastline on Earth. Whoever controls Cape Town controls the southern gateway of an entire continent. And the campaign to take it is already running. It's not new. The Belgians handed identity cards to the Hutu and Tutsi, two people who had lived together for centuries, and told them that they were enemies. The British, they pitted the Igbo against the Yoruba, the Fanti against the Ashanti to prevent a unified African resistance. Every ethnic conflict on the continent has the fingerprints of a settler class that knew it couldn't take African land from a united people. Today, the targets are Xhosa and Zulu, township against township, African immigrant against South African. But make no mistake, South Africa isn't the only target, because a unified Africa is the greatest threat that the settler class has ever faced. Where there's land and resources and a coastline the world depends on, they will run the same program: divide, destabilize, annex. Every African nation needs to recognize what's happening in Cape Town right now, because what they are testing in South Africa, they intend to scale across the continent. Immigrant Phil Craig, born in the UK, compared Cape Town to Panama and Greenland, two places that Trump has already threatened to seize by military force, and invited a world power to invade a sovereign South Africa. The settler class has always been unified. The question is, when will Africa? Because if you didn't know, now you know.
All right. Shout out to Sister Chanel Oliver. All right. Continuously dropping those hot facts. All right. Let me stop my screen share there.
Big ups to her.
Okay, family. So we just saying again, some of the attacks, some of the strategies of destabilization that still perpetuates to this day to make sure that African descended people, in particular in this instance, continental Africans, cannot continue to progress. All right. So this is continual impediments, monkey wrenches that are thrown into the gear works to make sure that continual progress and elevation does not occur, to make sure that there is continual stagnation and underdevelopment within these nations. Any additions on this, Brother Pollinator?
Man, we've had a couple of her clips on a couple of our shows. What's her name again?
That's Sister Chanel Oliver. Yeah, she's one of my new favorites.
Man, she is, man. She kicking the truth like the black man named Babe Ruth. You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh my gosh.
you know what I mean? But, you know, I love her, man, because she reminds me, she's in that same vein as Sister Ashley Barron. You know what I mean? And it amazes me because she brings a lot of the information from the continent, from the motherland. And I appreciate that, man, because I'm not in tune to it like she is or like some other people may be, but I appreciate you bringing her on and letting her voice be heard because she's bringing a lot of great information that a lot of people needs to continuously be in tune to. On the fact of how they continue to be the experimental ground or the testing ground of different parts of Africa or the motherland, it's like it's an all-out assault right now. It's almost like you could feel the shift happening and everybody is scrambling now to get minerals, resources. They're scrambling around to continue to finish their last final testings on different parts of the diaspora, whether we're here in Africa or America or Africa or even other parts of the world that there's a big major population of carbonated melanated people. But it's funny because you could feel it in the air that something's getting ready to happen because all of these efforts are just showing us that there's a shift getting ready to happen and they're on their last, I call it grains of sand going through the hourglass. And you could feel it. You could feel it. Go ahead, Sister Chi. You laughing. Go ahead. What you got to say?
Oh, no, I'm laughing at you. I'm laughing at what you're saying. But, you know, once again, going back for a moment to looking at France, you know, it's interesting to see the changes, you know, that governments or, you know, different entities. It's very interesting to see the difference. Now, the one thing that we have to note is that you have to remember France at some point, just to show you how things shift. France at some point, particularly when it came to musicians, you know, this being again Black Music Month. A lot of our musicians, particularly like around the 40s and in that particular time period, they used to leave the U.S. to go to France. I mean, they were able to, you know, make headway with their music, with their art, and the way they were treated was very different from being in the States. So France, you know, I was really kind of surprised that they abstained. I think in the near future, we will be examining that a little closer because it just, something's off with that. And the reason why I say that is because France has been one of the allies for Mumia Abu-Jamal.
Indeed.
Literally. I mean, they've had delegations to come to the U.S. on behalf of Mumia. They have a street named on behalf of Mumia. They have a curriculum in their school about Mumia. So it was really kind of surprising. I definitely had to examine that a little closer in the very near future. But to fast forward, and in this piece of what's going on in Africa right now, for those that don't know this, is really the struggle now is kind of like what Elle said. Everybody wants a piece of Africa now because they know that things are falling apart all over the world. And with the wealth of Africa in terms of the minerals and all the kinds of things, natural things that it has, they want to make sure that they're able to continue to survive. And for me, this is a very interesting example because it is said that Africa is, in fact, the cradle of civilization. It is the birthplace of so-called human, you know, mankind or what have you. Well, let's look and see what's happening because there's certainly a primary when it comes to folks striving to make certain that they're still able to survive. See? So that's not coincidental. That is Africa that they're after. That China has a major role, and that the European countries are also attempting. Now, again, we see what's going on with Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, And other countries are beginning to realize that they need to develop their countries to the degree of a better capability of being self-sufficient and self-sustaining. So these next 10 years are going to really be very, very interesting because, again, many countries want their parts of Africa. And
I
that's
call
why,
it the hungry hippo syndrome.
yeah, and that's why I think, again, the Africans here, us, Black folks that are of this land, but we recognize our African heritage, we are going to play a major role in some things in the near future. Lastly, I want to make sure that folks tune in to this week's New Day. Because for the next couple of weeks, in fact, from the month of June, we're going to be focusing on some of the different groups that are talking about reparations and allow those groups to really share what they're about, what their mission is, what their goals and objectives are. So this week, we're going to have joining with us the co-chair, one of the co-chairs of Cobra. And again, it's for the purpose of allowing the various groups that are out here talking about repair/reparations. We're going to give them the mic and let them say whatever they want to say, share whatever they want to share about their work. And in that way, our people will be able to make whatever determinations they want to make based on the information. So this week, again, it is in Cobra. And we're going to have them to give history, past campaigns, present campaigns, what's projected for the future, whatever. And then next week, we will have the FBAs. They'll be joining us. So it's going to be some hot stuff coming up on New Day, y'all.
All right. Absolutely. Thank you for that addition, Sister Empress. Now we want to continue on the same vein, and we're looking at those aspects that the sister was mentioning earlier, dealing with the divide and conquer type of mentality. All right, let's go to the clip.
Police in South Africa conduct spot checks, asking anyone who looks like a foreigner to produce documentation.
When last did you go to verify from the Lokuzan, from the Home Affairs?
Proving their right to be in the country. This one is targeting business owners in the port city of Durban. Some of those suspected of being in the country illegally are detained.
That's why you need to close the shop. You understand? We verify you, we verify the papers of the shop.
South African cities have been experiencing a rise in social unrest as locals blame crime and unemployment on illegal immigration, targeting mainly other Africans. Some foreigners say they are scared.
Why they are hating us? So that's a big issue. We love them. We give them a job. We never took any job from the South African as Ethiopians.
After a wave of anti-immigrant protests, several businesses owned by foreign nationals in Durban are closed. This is downtown Durban. It's where you find all the small shops where people come and buy their groceries and buy things like clothes. But look at this. This one's closed. This one's closed. This one's closed. All the shops in this complex are shut. You come out onto the street, go up the road, several businesses are also shut as well. Anti-migrant groups insist they are not xenophobic. They want their government to take stronger action against undocumented immigrants and tighten border security.
There is no hatred. It's only an element of criminality, which in fact was trying to invade the space of frustration by those who were demonstrating to us as government that government, why are you not doing what you are supposed to do?
South Africa's government is under pressure from locals to address rising unemployment, corruption, and crime. Some foreigners feel they are being unfairly targeted in the crackdown on undocumented foreigners. Harumutas, Al Jazeera, Durban.
All right, let me stop my screen share there. Okay, so we're seeing some of the same type of tactics and techniques that are being used in the U.S. being utilized over in foreign nations, being utilized in the motherland as well. All right, where folks are being pit against one another, Africans against Africans. You know, they're being labeled "quote unquote" immigrants, even though they are from the same continent. All right, where intra type of national trading used to go on, without a hitch. Before these borders that were designed by European nations. Okay, and now you have people that are following these type of paradigms and these type of narratives and talking points. And the representative there was saying that it was somewhat innocent or whatever the case may be, but I've seen video evidence of attacks, of assaults from South Africans on other Africans because they were not South African. Okay, so this was aspect they were talking about. He was talking about being able to push against criminality. These folks weren't doing anything criminal. They were just existing on the streets and they were being accosted. So, we have to again look at this type of mentality that's being produced, this type of narrative that's being pushed, and this consistent historical divide and conquer type of mentality that apparently we're still falling for. Let me turn it back over. Let me open up the floor for the EtheReal journalists for any additions. Sister Empress, anything on that before I move forward? I think Brother Pollinator has to come back in. Looks like he fell off.
Right. Well, again, things are only going to get worse before they get better. And I dare say we need to continue to proceed in the manner that we are, and that is moving forward to have our own everything. At this stage of the game, it's so imperative that we strive to be as self-sufficient, as self-determined as possible. And, this is what's going to play a major role in things in the very near future. Who has the capability to sustain themselves as a people, as a group, as a nation, or whatever you want to call it. So it's going to be very interesting in the next few years.
Indeed. All right, family, with that, okay, Brother Pollinator is coming back. All right, I'm not sure if you caught that last video. If you want to add on that before we move to the next, Brother Pollinator.
No, my apologies, man. I looked at my phone. My phone was down to 3%. When I went to try to plug it up, it cut off on me. So I had to charge it up to about 15% where it's at now so I can get back on the show.
All right. Copy that. No problem.
Yeah. So I missed the whole segment. So I'm my apologies.
Okay. All right. No problem. All right. So we're going to continue on that same vein. Let me go ahead and share my screen once again. And let's get some more insight and information pertaining to the situation. All right, this is further breakdown of that divide and conquer type of mentality and methodology, family. Let's check it out.
And how revealing the social fabric that once united communities,
and they're still using it today. FBA versus continental Africans, men versus women. It's really, really sad that we keep letting them play that same okie doke on us. But if it's about dividing you from your brother or your sister, then you have to know that this is a divide and conquer tactic, and they have been using it for hundreds of years.
Yeah, you're right. So one thing that I know that I was told when I come to Ghana is that you can't get in the water on Tuesday.
Okay, see,
you cannot get it. It still exists here. You can't get in the water on Tuesday. Yeah. So back in the States, a lot of us in America don't know the struggle of Africans on the continent from an African perspective. A lot of times in America, the things that we get about Africa is from Europeans. A lot of times
we delve into the historical context of taxation and housing.
All right, let me stop the share there. All right. And we can say vice versa as well. A lot of information that we get about Africans, we get from the Europeans and how they operate and how they function. And then we take on these things as gospel and we act accordingly, as opposed to, getting this information straight from the source. being able to have conversations on our own and be able to come to some points of understanding. All right, so we can move forward more collectively, understanding that this type of oppression, so on and so forth, is happening across the board to all of us, right? And we have a common enemy within that, and within that as well, a common goal and objective of justice, freedom, and liberation. All right, with that being said, let me come over to the theory journalist for any additions on this topic.
Wow. Well, again, this situation is very interesting. We've always seen how so-called tribes or clans or whatever have been against one another. Unfortunately, some say that that's why and how slavery was able to be, brought forward to the degree that it was. And that was because of some of the conflict that were amongst our people. Well, here we are again. And like you were saying, Brother Lumumba, information that we get, or misinformation, shall I say, that we get, comes from other sources. But we do have to also say that there are people on both ends that are also, shall we say, trying to be more European themselves. And as a result, will have despairing things to say about us and vice versa. And again, we've seen that too over and over again, where our people from time to time wanted to be more like Europeans. In fact, we're kind of seeing some of that right now. Our women, every day now, I pay even more attention. And I ask myself, when did our women decide, and again, it's just for some, it's not for all, of course, but it's enough to note, let's put it that way. When did they decide that looking like a clown was in vogue? And I'm saying now, I'm talking about hair. To have today, I saw on so many occasions where some of our women had maybe 4 different colors in their hair. And I'm not talking about subtle colors. I'm talking about bright green, bright orange, bright, yellow. And I'm like, when did that become something that we as Black women felt was cute or attractive? Or, I mean, what statement are we trying to make? So my point is, and that again was very European, even from a few years ago here in the States, when you had the punk rockers and others who, were doing these things. But here we now see our women and young girls doing this stuff. Even with the braids now, they're weaving in these colors. What is that about? So my point is that obviously now the attack on one another is even more severe, because so many of our people now really want to be more like off-white folk. And so that's going to create conflict. I yield.
All right. Thank you for that addition, Sister Empress. Brother Pollinator, you got anything on that?
Nah, I mean, y'all commentary I agree with. I mean, I'm not gonna add any more additions to that. I mean, just the fact that this divide and conquer syndrome thing is escalating is very troubling to me. But you guys pretty much hit some great points, so I'm gonna land my plane right there and let it keep on rolling.
All right, absolutely, and thank you for that. And so, family, along with that, what's happening is there is a lot of different issues, mainly psychologically, mainly mentally. And so we have an identity crisis that is happening, across the board on many different levels. We have a gender identity crisis, and we have a historical, genealogical type of identity crisis that pertains to lineage. And what's happening is people are, reaching out, they're kind of pulling out different stops. And the hair thing, that's been happening incrementally for at least the past 5 years, probably more, maybe like 7 to 10 years. And so it's just reaching a pinnacle now. It's reaching
Right.
an apex, right?
Right.
But this has been continuously building, and part of that is again because people, don't know how to identify. Like this is happening largely with our youth, right? And so they're looking for ways to kind of stand out, to self-identify, to create different groups, different cliques of belonging, to try to express themselves the best they know how. A lot of them don't really have those that they can go to as far as tutelage, right? As far as being able to be reared or raised up in a certain manner with self-confidence, with self-worth, so on and so forth, especially when they are being bombarded and super saturated with negative imagery and narratives. Okay, so folks are trying to find their way, and they don't really have a lot of tools to be able to work with and through in order to really get to different aspects of themselves, of their essence, of their identity. And so what you're seeing currently is the examples of that, of the expressions of that identity crisis.
Yeah, no doubt that the thing again that is becoming somewhat concerning for me is that it used to be more so younger folk that that I saw with these colors. Now I am seeing a lot more older women, and again, I'm not talking about like one shade. I'm saying 3 different colors in your head.
Yeah, because it's becoming more trendy.
What? Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah, so as the young folks continue to perpetuate it, it gains popularity, and so it's a role reversal. It used to be where the older generation was guiding the younger generation, and now it's come to a point where the older generation is actually following the younger generation and looking to them to be the examples, right? Where you see a lot of the previous generation kind of in their second childhood, in a state of stagnation, right? And arrested development. And so now you're seeing them acting and behaving childishly in the way that children would, because a lot of them, through different aspects of drama and trauma, have not had the capability to grow and develop in a more holistic type of manner, right? So now this is the expressions that you're seeing currently.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with both. I mean, that's where the psychological warfare comes into play. When you take somebody's self-worth, you take their self-value, and like you said, their self-identity, that right there within themselves is a wrestling match that the individual has to take on before we could collectively come and bring that healed soul into the collective to move forward what we're trying to do with our agenda. There's so much, like you said, trauma and drama and pain that has to be dealt with, and I've dealt with it throughout my life, but I know how to transmute it into positivity. I know how to transmute pain and trauma into, something that's going to be my success. And that's being part of who we are as in our bloodlines. We're alchemists. When we have to be most Black people in America, as well as in Europe and on the motherland continent, you have to be able to transmute pain and alchemize trauma to continue on, because we're still here. We're still surviving. We're still able to gain some kind of not even restitution, some kind of awakening or revival after going through that. We like roaches and rats, roaches and rats, or sometimes, because I think if a nuclear war was to happen, we'd probably be able to survive. The only nation of people that be able to survive, because we know how to alchemize pain and trauma and adapt, adjust, and overcome. And that's a sad thing, but how we're doing it here in America is it's so much divided and conquered. It's because of these trends, like you said, when people start, doing these different hairstyles and things like those are roots being planted very deep to continue on that divide and conquer strategy that any enemy, whether you're a spiritual enemy of ours or a physical enemy of ours, is trying to implement into this whole matrix. And that's a psychological thing. And that's why the war is continuing on. And we're gaining ground now. We're starting to gain ground through things like what we're doing, as well as other remnant people. I call them remnant because there's a remnant that's going to raise up the standard. And we are that standard. And we are going to bring forth the victory of us being the ones that did not kowtow or bow down to these idols that are being created and right in front of our face. I yield.
All right, absolutely. All right, family, getting ready to close out for this evening. I got 2 more clips I want to play for y'all, and we're gonna close out for tonight. All right, I want to be able to share this one video on optimal health and wellness. That's very important, family. All right, as we continue to push forward, we have to make sure that we are healthy enough, all right, to be able to be in our right state of minds, holistically. So we're going to look at one aspect of our physical attributes and how to stay healthy, so that that our physical aspects and characteristics definitely affect our mental, right, how we're able to think and operate in our brain capacity, and also spiritually. Okay, because these things work in tandem. All right, so let's take a quick glimpse at this brother here who is 66 years of age. All right, and in great physical conditioning. All right, let's take a glimpse.
How young are you?
66 years old.
What do you do to look so good and stay so fit at your age?
Diet, work out about 5 times a week, and just be consistent and disciplined.
When did you start working out?
17. I never lived for 20 or 30. I lived for when I got 60. See, most young people don't think about that. For men or women, when you hit 45 and over, that's when you want to crack down and just stay consistent.
Why do you continue to stay active and stay fit?
Why work all them years to retire and have a good time, but you didn't take time to take care of your health to enjoy it? Now I just compete just because I can.
When did you start doing that?
At 59, I took a bet from a friend I could win the show. My first one, won it all. 3 months later, I went to the Nationals in Pittsburgh, won the 50, 55. Then I got a pro card. Been a pro ever since.
That's incredible.
I mean, that's what I do. I just want to have fun, enjoy my later years. I don't want to give all my money to the pharmacy.
That's deep.
Eat, sleep, good diet. Have a nice body and physique and be pretty healthy for a long time if you do those simple things.
How would you rank those 3 things?
Diet first, sleep second, then the gym.
When you say diet, what's one meal that's a non-negotiable for you?
Breakfast to me is the most important. Get your day started.
What do you eat for breakfast?
Egg whites, oatmeal, blueberries, cherries, strawberries, spinach. It's just a diet, rest, no ego lifting. As you get older, you change your workout pattern like me. I lived different when I was in my 40s. I lived different when I was 50. And I sure live different now that I'm in my 60s, almost 70. Work out smarter, not harder, to stay away from injuries. That's what I do, and it seems to work pretty well.
Do you have a regimen for a 6-pack?
Yes, I do. Leg lifts, knee raises, hanging on the bar, planks, side planks, regular good old crunches and frog kicks. You do them 4 or 5 things with the diet, of course, because all 6-pack is from a diet. Don't think you could just go in here and do 1,000 sit-ups, you have a 6-pack. Coordinate that with your diet, and you can have a nice 6-pack. I'm gonna tell you a little secret. When you want to stay fit, like lean, you got to pick your poisons, as I say. You can't eat everything. So I figure, what can I get rid of, and what do, like you said, I want the most? I want bourbon and maybe a little vodka sometime. So I'll leave all the sweet stuff alone. Just on a week, I have me a cigar, I have me bourbon.
80-20.
Clean, 80-20. That's all you gotta do, and you still get enjoy. But I just pick my times when I do it.
How often a week do you do your core?
3 times. You can do it every day, but I don't. I do it every other day.
What's one piece of advice that you can give the audience watching right now?
Don't ever think you can't get in shape. I hear that all the time because I train some people and I said, give me a couple months and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Block out all the negative stuff, trying to tell you too old because they don't want to do it. If you stick with it for a couple of years, you could transform your whole body and feel much better, much stronger, have more energy. You feel confident. You feel better. I'm 66. The same way I'm telling you, that's how I did it. You just start, get.
All right, let me stop the screen share there, family. Okay, just a glimpse, right? Some practical applications and tips. All right, some encouragement, some motivation. All right, and keeping up with your health, right, and practicing healthy habits. All right, and putting those habits into consistent actions, right? And so, when you utilizing these type of methodologies, to make sure that you're putting in the proper positive practices, all right, with your health, as far as that's concerned, then you look better. All right. Not only is it healthy for you, for your body mechanics, but also you look good as well. All right. So you're good. You're being healed within. You're strong. You're strengthening and fortifying yourself. You're also feeling better. So that as far as how you look, and so that affects your mentality. Okay. So now you're feeling better, and so that is going to affect your spirit as well. All right. So all these things again work in tandem, and we have to make sure we're looking at things holistically and looking at things for sustainability and longevity. All right, family. So health is wealth. Just keep that in mind and keep that to the forefront of our brains and our activities. All right. Let me come to the Ethereal Journalist on that one. I got one more clip before we get out of here for this evening.
You said it all, bro. I'm good.
Yep, me too. Me too.
All right. Excellent. All right, family. I got the last clip of the evening, and then we're going to get ready to close out for today. This 50th, this golden Jubilee 50th edition of the Ethereal Journey podcast. All right, with that, we're going to close out on a high note. We're going to close out with some positivity and some ethereal inspiration. All right, with that, let me come to the sister Neptune 21. All right, who actually met over at the Malcolm X Day celebration over in Malcolm X Park on the 16th of May. And, hopefully we'll be able to build moving forward with our Ubuntu Justice Jubilee, and she be one of the artists that we have featured on that program. With that being said, let's let it rock. Okay, get the sound right. Okay, let me take it back. I'm not sure what the sound going on. Okay, give me one. I did not share it properly. Let me share that. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is our segment of Ethereal Inspiration, family. All right, let me refresh it.
Picture perfect, a world without war. I try and envision it, cause what we really doing this for? Babylon is crumbling while they still target the poor. Invade our land, strip it bare of all the riches it bore. I live my life in gratitude, but I could never ignore the wicked shit that's been knocking on Aboriginals' door. They try to desensitize and distract us with a lore. Cause if you don't know who you are, you don't know what you got in store. See, my whole lane different. I observe reality, explore the spirit realm. I sit and talk to God, and then I paint a picture. I speak these words, reflect the ancient scripture. Know there's power in the tongue. We ain't just talking, this is manuscripted. So when we yell free Congo or Palestine, INT Sudan, your homie or Tigray, we build a more momentum for future, a better life. Middle finger to the system, is crooked and full of lies. In an age of information where everything comes to life. Cause we all know damn well them people ain't have to die. Wish we could change the world with a prayer, release the sky. But just no shift is coming to elevate paradigms. They burying their babies, they dropping bombs on the sky. Got them risking it all to get cobalt from out their minds. Rest in peace to the fallen, we praying your spirits fly. I'm sending you my love cause I know the value of life. Double X.
All right. Let me stop the screen share there. All right, family. So that was our segment of Ethereal Inspiration. All right, shout out to the sister Neptune 21. All right, family. With that being said, we're going to close out for this evening. Let me come to the Ethereal Journalist for final thoughts and closing remarks. Brother Pollinator, let me come over to you.
Man, it was a great 50th Golden Jubilee celebration anniversary / whatever you want to call it episode, and I'm hoping that all of our Ethereal Journey audience that chimed in, that listened in, and I hope that they gained some kind of informational awareness or consciousness from some of the segments that we had tonight, because at the end of the day, this is our love offering. We're here to pollinate. We're here to spread the seeds of love, to spread the seeds of all the things that we have went through in our experiences in life, but also to impart them upon everyone else. And we want you to impart some of the things upon us so that we can learn and grow together collectively. So this is what we're about with the Ethereal Journey. And this 50th episode is golden because that's what we always have done, and that's what we'll continue to do. We will be straight with no chaser in some instances, uncut to the gut in others, and then sometimes we will be who we're going to be, because within your own true authentic self is the highest frequency that you can operate with, which is almost equivalent to the operation of love, being in love at all times with yourself first and foremost. Love yourself, have self-love, have self-worth, have self-value, love yourself as you continue on your journey. And then collectively come together on podcasts like the Ethereal Journey, and we can continue to build. And that's what we're about at the end of this day. So I just encourage everybody to continue on with their balance, their alignment, their stability, and their synchronicity with the universe, the base, the rhythm of who we are as a people, the rhythm of the universe, and all the elements of the universe that we have within ourselves, within our own kingdom and queendom. Just continue to develop your consciousness and raise up, because at the end of the day, I ain't gonna be able to save you. Sister Chi ain't gonna be able to save you. Brother Lumumba Uncaged ain't gonna be able to save you. You're gonna have to save yourself. Period. And with that being said, upward, forward, onward, UFO, the revolution or the evolution of love has just been televised by the Ethereal Journalists, and we thank you for chiming in with us and being a part of our journey, as well as us being a part of your journey. And I say shalom and one.
All right. Thank you for that addition, brother. Pollinator, coming over to Sister Empress. Final thoughts, closing remarks.
Oh, yeah. So this 5-0 episode was definitely a powerful one. And again, an indication of what is yet to come. As we proceed with this month, of course, we're going to be coming into the summer solstice. So we know it's going to be some real energy going on for the rest of this month. But on another note, I want to make sure that people really begin to get more acclimated to the ideals of us being self-sufficient, self-determined. There's an individual piece to that, but then there's a collective piece to that. And so we're going to be talking more about how to move forward collectively. People have their own way of doing things, and they should, when it comes to their individual road and certain things that they want to get accomplished. But on a collective base, we have got to establish ourselves in such a way that the rest of the world will see us for who we really are. And with that, will not only appreciate, but will respect us as well. So we're looking forward to additional Ethereal Journey episodes, and we're going to grow and develop and move this thing forward. There has to be levels of accountability now. There has to also be commitment and responsibility. And so that's what we bring, and that's what we're going to make certain others do as well.
I say, thank you for those additions, Brother Pollinator and Sister Empress. All right. Now, with that being said, we're going to close out this session for this evening. I got to give thanks, of course, first and foremost, to the Most High Creator Creatress. Give thanks to the ancestors and the elders, those who have shed blood, sweat, and tears and paved the way to allow us to be here today. I want to thank you all as well. Thank you all for tapping in on YouTube, tapping in on Facebook. All right. Those who continue to support and tap in. All right. I want to thank you for your time, energy, and effort, dedication, determination, and discipline. I want to bid you truth, justice, peace, love, freedom, power, prosperity, protection, patience, and divinely principled purpose. I want to say let us continue to strategize, organize, and mobilize. And finally, I want to say Pamoja Tutashinda, together
we will win.
And with that
That's
being
right.
said, I gotta add in, of course, shout out to Mumia Abu Jamal, Kenny Zulu Whitmore, Kamal Siddiqui, Alok Bala Shakur, political prisoners, family who have been doing decades behind the wall for fighting up for freedom and liberation. So we got
and now Chairman Fred Hampton Jr.
Indeed. And with that, we got to continue to fight for their freedom and liberation. And shout out to my bro Kwame Bean Shakur as well, recent political prisoner that's behind the wall. And with that being said, I got to say, free them all, free the land, all power to the people.
Shalom.